Now I guess we are going to come to our main event here. Miss Leigh Brown. And did we make Leigh a host?
You have to turn it over.
Did you make her a host or?
Not yet, but I need some power, so you're going to have to hand it over because you know I love to have the power and control.
I know. I gave up my control to Cindy, so Cindy, you got to make her a host now.
Look, y'all scared? Y'all nervous? That's why you didn't make me a host.
Give that woman the power.
So.
Hey, Brenda Lee, while she's figuring that out, can I tell you how much I love when you let that emotion spill over? That's the best part of you, you sweet mom, all you. I love that. Oh.
You are in charge, Leigh.
Well, you know what, Leigh, I got to tell you, this group of ladies here, I mean, this is my
and men. Mark's here too, and so is Ronald.
Oh, Mark knows. But they are my tribe. They are my tribe. So to be in front of them is like just fills my soul tank. It's that fuel for the day, you know?
Right? See, it matters. I'm telling you, especially in this jacked up world that we're living in right now. Let's see. All right. Can y'all see my slides? Because I know you're realtors. You love some slides. All right. Who's going to raise their hand at me and tell me when it's time to stop? Because y'all know I can talk for days without stopping. That's my gift as your realtor friend. And I see heads shaking because y'all either like me or you feel me or you know. So anyway, extra high fives and thank yous to our sponsors for this. Y'all, our affiliate members and our sponsors aren't getting nearly as much FaceTime with us as they really enjoy because we're so much fun in person. And I know that you all have preferred lists that you already use, but some of y'all have preferred vendors that don't give a dime to make realtors better. And so when you have an at bat, give it to these fine people. And by the way, that was a very fine canvas show. I personally like the snarling dog. I don't know where you found him, but when we're going to have a wonderful vendor, they should totally have a snarling dog. So anyway, good morning. If we've never met, I'm Leigh Brown. I'm from North Carolina. I'm a 20-year realtor. And when you think about the year that we're having, y'all should know I came into 2020 expecting to do a lot of client parties and big giant give backs and have all kinds of fun for my 20th anniversary in real estate. And well, you know, all the red got licked off my candy by this stupid coronavirus. And so I've had to shift and punt a little bit, as you all have. So our session here today, we're going to talk about how we as realtors need to shift what we say about ourselves as we continue to build our businesses for the fourth quarter, because there's still a little bit of 2020 left. God bless us all. And then we're going to go to 21 and beyond. And for the record, I will not be the person who says, I wish 2020 were over, because I wished for 2019 to be over and I have paid for that dearly. So I'm just going to have to manage as we go forward. So y'all just be careful what you wish for. All right. Anyway. Here we go. If you have questions, by the way, toss them into the Q&A or into the chat block. I will do my best to monitor those. Actually, we don't have Q&A. We do have chat. So feel free to use it for good and not for evil. So as we're thinking about what we as realtors need to be perceived at, how many of y'all have felt like this going to the grocery store since y'all were released back to the grocery stores in Michigan, and people come up to you and they're like, hey, so, I mean, should we sell right now? And what's going on? And should we buy right now? And is this a good time? Are we in a bubble? Like they come over and they're asking you these questions, and it's like they're afraid somebody's going to hear them. It's a weird thing. Normally your clients come up to you in the grocery store and they're like, hey, how are you? What you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And now they're like, I don't know what to do, because our clients in our community have heard so many conflicting things about everything, because everything is conflicting nowadays. And real estate's no different. You think about what's happening with real estate, everybody knows that we are having record low levels of inventory. You don't need to tell people that, friends. They already know. And they already know we have record low interest rates. Also something we need to stop saying, because it's been like that since 2008. Our problem right now is, frankly, we have this whole generation of millennials who think 3% is normal. That's a bigger problem than the fact that they're low. So anyway, you've got people knowing things are weird and they don't know what to do. And so you're getting thrust into a space of needing to be an expert, when for many of you, you feel a little bit hamstrung as to what to say because you too feel a little bit lost and confused and concerned. So can you just raise your hand if you have felt lost, confused, and concerned about real estate during the pandemic era, whether it's concern because you don't have enough hours in the day or enough houses to sell, or it's concern about, I mean, are we at a bubble? I mean, what's going to happen next? Or I don't know if I should be showing houses right now because I'm COVID nervous. Because I'll remind y'all, with everything we talk about, the world is on the spectrum and it looks like this. And on this end, you have the people who think we're in the Walking Dead and we're all going to be dead and there's going to be bodies piled up along the sidewalk and they're convinced that COVID's going to kill us all. And on the other end, you have the people who say, this is a hoax. There is no coronavirus and this is all made up. Pretty sure that, like everything else, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And so you got to remember this, that as realtors, our job is always to be the one that says, dial it back in, people. Let's figure out the best way to make a decision and move forward. Which means that for us as the real estate professionals in our markets, we have to dial back our own tendency to be on one end or the other of this really wild spectrum that we're in, and be different than the mainstream media because they tend to go in one direction or the other too. Which means that your clients, for the most part, have done what to the news? They've cut it off. They're cutting off, they say, I can't deal with it. My blood pressure can't take it. I can't take it. I'm out, which means that they still have questions that need answering, which is why they come up to you in the grocery store and kind of surreptitiously ask you what's going on. So how do we prepare ourselves as professional realtors to be that center ground, to be the one with answers and solutions and ideas? Well, first of all, I need you to act like my statue here. This is hard for some of y'all because we're realtors. We love to talk, have opinions, and give out information. But you notice he's doing really two things here. The first thing my friend here is doing is thinking. Realtors are not really known for our great cognitive thinking skills. Would y'all agree? I mean, you know, we kind of think on the fly and roll with it, figure shit out. I need us to think.
I saw him at Rose.
Whoever is unmuted, could you please mute yourself, friend? Whoever's making a phone call, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask whoever it is to mute here. You got to think before you talk to people. And that's what's going to allow you to come back off this spectrum and to say to people, talk to me a little bit. That's one of the biggest gifts you have as a realtor professional, is that ability to slow it down and start asking better questions. And so if you're thinking before you talk, you're also going to shut up before you answer. So see, he's like got his hand over his mouth. I love this statue because that's what realtors need to do sometimes, is put a lid on it before you say something. Because we need to figure out where people are before we respond so that we can be that professional that provides a personalized solution. Because that's one of the reasons you guys are market leaders. You do provide personalized solutions. Well, the way that we get to the personalized solution can be as simple as the words that we say and what we do when we're given that gift of that conversation. So one of the questions you're often asked in real estate, whether you're on the phone or on email or wherever you are, people have this tendency to say to you, well, how's the market, right? You get that question all the time. Or how's real estate? They'll just generalize it a little bit. In coronavirus era, probably the nicest thing that's happened is our clients ask us with this, how's real estate? Because they're worried about you. They're worried about your ability to feed your family. They don't know what's going on. They watch the news. They knew that in Michigan, y'all were on an extreme level of shutdown for a while. They're worried about you. They're not worried about the market. And we should accept that as a gift, because as realtors, we're often very quick to do for others, and we don't allow anybody to do for us. But I'm going to promise you, your clients want to care for you as much or more as you want to care for them. But the other thing that happens is when they ask us how the market is right now, if I were to unmute all of you and say, how's the market? You would say in pretty much some general stereo unison, I'm busy. I'm so busy, Leigh, I just can't see straight. And I'll say, well, why are you busy? And now you'll say, because I have to write 14 offers for every buyer before they finally figure out that I'm not making up the multiple offer situations, that yes, a list price offer ain't good enough. And yes, they're competing in a wildly competitive market. because you're working really, really extra hours to get a buyer to figure it out. And y'all know how this is. They have to lose a few times before they're going to win. Your sellers all think their houses are dipped in 14 karat gold, and they want to argue with you over the offers that they did get because they think there's one more just about to come around the corner that is going to be higher and better and more cash and fewer contingencies and give them everything they want. So you're working extra, and I get it. You are busy. That is never the answer to the how's the market question. Y'all got to stop saying that. You've also got to stop saying we're in a low inventory environment and a low interest rate environment. Your answer should always be this. Well, tell me why you're asking. Shift that real estate market conversation, because the reason you have to get it narrowed down, we on this call, we are the junkies of real estate. You know transactional real estate. You also know the political advocacy piece of real estate. You know the networking piece of real estate, and you work on the marketing and the education and the negotiation and all the different angles. And so when somebody says, how's the market? You could instantly go in 87 directions, which is kind of the opposite of how you become market leaders, by being personalized. So somebody says, how's the market? I want you to get quiet. A hand is up over here. Yes, ma'am.
Leigh, you have host control, so you're going to have to let people in. I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not know that. Let me let Lori in. Lori's in now.
Okay, cool.
And since I have host control, can I mute the people who have unmuted themselves and are talking on the phone? I can. Hot dog.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for interrupting me to fix things. But now I see there's an Alicia Beasley on here. Y'all know my 10th grade geography teacher was Alice Beasley, just for the record. So Alicia, you did not know. Okay, so there we got that fixed. But we already fixed the script, right? See, we're just 10 minutes in, we fixing a script. How's the market? You're going to say, tell me why you're asking, so that you can provide personalized conversation. Let me go to my controls here and mute the unmuted. All right, fixed. Shazam. So how are we going to get these conversations going? How are we going to get somebody to call you? Well, when we're in the coronavirus era where we're away from each other, but we're busy in our businesses, when you're busy right now in real estate, you know what happens to you? You actually go into shutdown mode because you have too much on your plate. Y'all ever notice this? Your list gets so long, you say, screw it. I need a minute. And you take a minute. What do you do with that minute? You go over here to your phone. You go to Facebook, and when you go to Facebook, what do? You just scroll and scroll and scroll, and then you say, let me go look at Instagram, and I'm prospecting. No, I'm prospecting. No, you are not prospecting. You are scrolling. Y'all are making that the biggest excuse ever. And so you wind up killing a ton of time and letting your schedule go away. For many of us, coronavirus has felt like this. That was my family calendar in April and also in May, and mostly in June and in July. And just in August, it started to get straightened back out because I put my children in private school so I could get them into instruction, which has been an entirely big shift for me because I'm a public school girl, but I didn't have any choice this year. And so our calendar for months looked like this. Your calendar looked like this too. You had events, you had networking things, you had client meetings and parties and BNI and Rotary Club. And you had your kids going here and here and here, and your grandkids going here and here, and girls' night out, and coronavirus came and you just wiped out the whole damn thing. And then when the month changed, you just changed the name of the month. And when your schedule gets emptied, it felt good for a minute. Didn't it feel good in March when we had the shutdown? That first week, you're like, oh, is this what normal people have? I like this shutdown. Please don't let me be essential for a minute. It felt good. Didn't last long because we're very ADD people in real estate. You needed to get back busy again, and then you couldn't. And so when your business changes and the area around you changes, and this doesn't even have to be just coronavirus era, y'all, this could be losing a spouse. This could be a child going off to college and now you're an empty nester. When things in your life just get turned upside down, it's easy to feel mushy. Well, nobody expects anything of me now. So what am I going to do? And in fact, it's what real estate looks like for new licensees when they get in and there's nobody there to tell them what to do. They start feeling a little mushy. And when you start feeling mushy, you start filling your time up with yoga pants and Doritos on the couch. And then you're watching TikTok because it's the new thing. And you're figuring you probably should get to know what the young people are doing. And then you're watching Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and suddenly your days got away from you. And then when you got busy again, you had things to do. but you still feel a little bit mushy because life's not normal. And we don't know when we're going to see normal come back, do we? Nobody has any idea, except that November 3rd is going to be here soon enough and we'll have some kind of an idea. But when you think about this, we have to fix something. So what I want you to fix is your social life, because that's where y'all spend time. And by that, I mean your social media life. You've got to figure out a plan, y'all. Realtors don't do well at creating a plan on social media, because what you'll wind up doing is just posting the same stuff that everybody else does. I'm just going to suggest to y'all right now that each one of y'all is fearfully and wonderfully made, and you are not like anybody else. You don't show houses the same way as everybody else. You don't behave with your clients the same way that everybody else does. In fact, you're probably working a market niche, whether you're like me and you like the elderly, or you like the first timers, or you work with golf course people or lake people or whatever it is. You've got a unique place that you operate in. So you need to let this start to come through your social in some kind of organized fashion. And here's how we're going to do it. This download, by the way, is right there at leighbrown.com/resources. And before you ask, I love realtors. Every time I have shown this, they're like, how do I get page 2? I'm like, that's a picture of a graphic. The download is 2 pages. I do not know why people have to ask me that, but I'm just going to pray over them for it. So anyway, you get both pages. Here's what I want you to think about. We have this empty calendar. Your social calendar needs to exist. And you don't have to do it 7 days a week. So first of all, there's 2 days. I don't need you to be thinking about your social stuff strategically. That's for your grandkids and your puppies and eating supper, whatever you're doing for fun. 2 days are not related to your strategy, okay? The other 5 can be Monday through Friday. If you're a Monday through Friday person, it could be Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, I don't care. Pick 5. So I've got 10 buckets for you here. That's going to be 2 weeks worth of ish content. Now, this is not Leigh Brown telling you have to do it the Leigh Brown way. These are buckets. This is designed to be your creative starters so that you can think in terms of your market niche and how you react to people, and whether you're better as a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, or you're a C personality with details, or you're a bubbly, overflowing I personality. It doesn't matter. This is a starting point, all right? Here's what you're going to do. First of all, I have the Leigh Brown long bony mom finger of shame with what not to do. Y'all, virtual tours are not what we always used. It is not the 10 photos stitched together in an app and you put it into a video thing with some music and called it a tour. That ain't a tour. Think about how you show houses, okay? You want to think in terms of dynamic content. Dynamic content is you. Y'all are fun. Do you realize how fun you are? When you go to a listing and you run into spiders on the Supra box, what do y'all do? Do you make your clients clean it off for you? Because that's what I do. I don't do spiders. I like snakes. I do not care for spiders. So if I see a snake, I can handle it. If I see spiders, I tell my buyer, I'm like, you won't have to come over here and help a sister out because I ain't messing with this. That's how you behave on showings, and that's what makes you likable and relatable. And when you're likable and relatable, you're also trustworthy. They all go hand in hand. You're not even showing that, y'all. You're too busy trying to be what everybody else said you had to be. Got to stop. And so don't be boring, be you. And yeah, I've already mentioned y'all got to stop talking about low inventory and low interest rates. That ain't interesting. The other one here, I hate to even have to say this out loud, but it is going to have to be said. You realtors, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, have got to stop bitching about other realtors. Coronavirus has brought out the worst in people. Y'all notice the amount of shaming going on amongst realtors? It was bad in Michigan too. I'm in several of the association Facebook groups in Michigan because I've had the opportunity to hang out with y'all a lot. It is horrendous, some of the mess going on. What are we doing? If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? Yes. So I'll tell you, if there's something you've got to say about another realtor, what should you do? Pick up this telephone and call them and say, hey, friend, hey, I just want to let you know I saw your Facebook post and it sounds like you're a little stressed out. How can I help? I did that for a local realtor. I've known her for 15 years and I love her. And she's wired a lot like I am. We're D personalities, bottom line driven. We hurt feelings all day, every day for fun without even knowing we're having fun. And her Facebook post had said, if your agent won't show you houses because of the coronavirus, I will. And she didn't mean it in terms of I'll steal your clients. She meant it as in I ain't scared. And I called her and I said, girl, I know you're not an unethical realtor trying to cross agency lines. What in the hell is this? And she said, well, I'm just saying I'm not scared. I said, I know you're saying that, but that ain't what your post said. Go read it and pretend it's not you and me reading it. She's like, oh, I see what you meant. And she deleted it. Now, what if I had instead made a post and said, well, she sucks and she is the devil and she should never be a realtor. I'm going to turn her in. Ah, it makes you look bad and petty. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Pick up the phone if you got a beef with somebody, but be kind. And which means you shouldn't be typing in all caps, friends. If there's something you have to say and you're using a capitalization for more than the beginning of a sentence or a proper noun, backspace over it and don't post it. And if you have more than one exclamation point, there's probably a problem. So just stop. I don't know why we're doing this on social. Social was designed to be fun and let us like each other and get to know each other and make us better. And in turn, it's ruined us. And did y'all watch that new Netflix special, The Social Dilemma? Oh, it'll make you cut your phone off. I'm just saying, which is not a bad thing. So anyway, that's all of the what not to do's. Let's talk about the 10 buckets very briefly so you know where I want you to structure that 2 weeks worth of content. You'll notice that only one of the 10 buckets is related to real estate. Oh, why? You're like, no, Leigh, I have to talk about real estate or they won't use me. Yeah, friends, if you talk about real estate all the time, they ain't calling you because then you sound boring, dreadful, and salesy, which is why most of you don't prospect because you don't want to sound salesy. So then what do you do on social media? You get all salesy and gross. Just stop it. Think about what you know about real estate. Think about things that people can be doing. So do any of you have clients that are still on lockdown? They're panicked to leave the house. Anybody still have those people in your database? What if you talk to them? And what if you made a social post that said, hey, if you're not ready to leave the house yet, let me give you some things you could be doing to get your house ready for the market of the future. I have one client who wants to sell. They will only talk by Zoom and they will only sell the house once there is a vaccine that is over 70% effective. They've set some very specific metrics for selling their house. Do I want to keep in touch with them? Yes. And so I say, you know what? If you're at home, do X, do Y, we're cool. Yeah. Are you going to have other clients that are like, well, I ain't scared. All right, cool. If y'all want to sell right now, I can sell it. There's a way to respond, but to be kind and be thoughtful and be helpful. How many of y'all work with investor clients? Who's got a good landlord that you love? Anybody work with investors? You need to be working with investors, y'all. That's a wonderful thing for your client base that is over the volatility of the stock market. So what if you said, hey, today is my tip on how to be a good tenant. So if you are a good tenant, you pay the rent on time and you don't tear up the unit and you tell us if something's broken. Ta-da! And hey, let me tell you how to be a good landlord. Tell them when you receive their payment. Fix it when they ask for it. Stay out of their business unless they're in trouble. Ta-da! You could really have some fun little content that talks about real estate without you saying, hey, who do you know that needs to buy or sell a house? Think about the things that you know, the things that you share. That's what that content should be. Now, for some of y'all, it's going to be a static post. You might build it on Canva, because we love Canva because it's free. There's no reason to pay for the pro version. Am I right? All right. So get the free stuff, make a little visual, make it cute. Most of you need to be on video though, and you already know this, and I don't really have to keep telling you, but now you've been on Zoom for like 7 months. Y'all should be over your fear of seeing yourself on camera because I don't know if y'all have heard, did y'all hear that we had our committee chair and vice chair camp for the National Association of Realtors? Have y'all heard about the camp? Where we had a chair who was shirtless in his camera, and then he stood up. He did, and there was what the Lord gave him, and that's all that was there. And it was, he finally figured it out and cut his camera off. So I just point that out to say you should not be scared of video, because if he can come back from that, I guess any of us can come back from poor lighting. So anyway, that's your real estate stuff that isn't icky. Then the second one, okay, realtors have killed it at the second category. You've rocked it with community information where you've shared, here's what's open, here's a virtual festival, here's where to get a COVID test, here's how you can get your kids in some tutoring, here's the hubs. There's things you could talk about in and around your community that people love to hear from you. They love positivity, and realtors are the most amazing profession ever when it comes to being positive and optimistic. So think about things that you share about your community that's interesting that people might want to know. Number 3 is a category realtors should actually have been in long before now, and that's emergency planning. When I think about this, Think about what's coming next. What season is upon us, friends? Not fall, which we all love fall, but what's coming? Winter's coming. Do y'all deal with any vacant houses ever? Yes. And what happens to a vacant house in Upper Michigan in the winter? What's going to happen to them pipes? You know. And what happens to the septic tanks in the UP in the winter? Did y'all know they have frozen septic tanks up there? I find that to be fascinating. And so if I were dealing with frozen septic tanks, I probably wouldn't be a realtor, let's be honest. But that's something your clients should know what's happening, how to prep for it. How do you winterize a septic tank? And you could even, if you're in Lower Michigan, you could be like, let me tell y'all something. I'm sure glad that I don't have to sell real estate in the Upper UP where they have the frozen septic tanks in the winter. What? Isn't that interesting to people? Because then you can say, if you need a plumber, I got a guy. He's fantastic at winterizing if you have a vacant house, where you can share information. Every buyer that you have should be going to ready.gov to develop a plan for getting the people out of the house during fire. That's a wonderful way to say, I'm the realtor who cares about how you safely live in the house that I sold to you, knowing that you're going to be there. Now the national average is getting close to 10 years people are staying in a house. Help them live safely. That's great social content. That tells people that you give a rip. And I know that you do, but you forget to show it, friends, because what happens, instead of you showing it, you're telling people you sell a bunch of houses. You're number one. I'm great. I sold this house in 5 minutes, which is the dumbest post you can ever make. We'll talk about that in a second. But you're telling people things about yourself that reiterate why they hate realtors instead of reminding them of why they love the one realtor who helped them. Because you've all had a client that said, I love you. I hate realtors, but I love you. You've all had that client. They want to trust you and lean on you. This is what you're thinking in terms of being that resource. You're going to see me put a story up in a little bit because we are currently in the rain from Hurricane Sally. My whole county is under emergency flood watch today, and I live in the floodplain, so I'm fixing to make a post about it. Nothing to do with real estate, everything to do with I want my neighbors to be safe. Political stuff. We're in a political season right now that needs our attention. But I ain't talking the top of the ticket. I ain't talking Trump and Biden. I'm talking about school boards, mayors, town council, city council, state legislatures. Do we all now realize now how important those local and state elected officials are when traditionally we only pay attention to the top of the ticket? We do. If you want to copy something, look what I'm doing tonight. I'm doing a Facebook Live. I'm interviewing all the school board candidates from my county. I'm going to ask them questions from my mom's perspective. I ain't running for office. I'm not a member of one of the local caucus political committees. I'm a mama. I got questions. And so I've invited them all to come on Facebook Live. That's what you can do as a realtor to show your community. This is not about real estate. This is about the fact that I too am a neighbor. That's what your social content should be saying. You're going to see me at the grocery store. I can also sell your house, but I'm a neighbor. And then think about what we could be doing with a Zoom world. Most of your town councils and county commissions, planning and zoning meetings are all on Zoom right now. You can be dropping in by Zoom and seeing what they're talking about. Who should be on planning and zoning? Realtors should. We're the only ones that understand the depth of the impact of their decisions because we know how schools impact houses and how DOT decisions impact houses and what these increased regulatory and permit costs do to the cost of development, which is contributing to the affordability crisis we're seeing. It all adds up. Who gets it? Realtors do. You got to drop in. And that's when you think about politics in terms of policy and less about candidate versus candidate, which is a wonderful message we can be putting forth. Are y'all seeing where I am with this groove right here? And then you're going to have all these other buckets, talk about grocery stores, healthcare stuff, what's happening with Parks and Rec, how can people be active? Talk about stuff that people need and can use that brings us together. That's the gift of realtor life. We bring people together when the rest of the world wants to be divisive. So when you've built this out and you've got now 2 weeks worth of content, and by the way, I need some accountability. Raise your hand if you are going to take that 2 sheets and make 10 items for 2 weeks worth of content on your social. Raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2. I see some very stubborn people not raising their hands. Yeah, I'm on to you over there. Oh, I even got a clapping emoji and a bunch of cameras that are turned off. I know y'all are running a vacuum right now. You didn't want us to see. That's all right. So listen, once you've agreed to do something, you know you have to do it. That's one of the gifts of Women's Council, right? In leadership, we have to hold one another accountable. If you're not sure you're going to get it done, I need y'all to message somebody right now, or shit, put it in the chat block and say, who's going to hold me accountable? Where you can text each other and say, hey, did you do it? That's where you're going to start to change the business model that you have. And then once you've built that one thing out, you're now going to notice something, by the way. The conversations with your clients and your neighbors are going to be deeper and strengthened. Whereas your competitors are talking house, 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 they're going to come to you for everything. That is massive in building your business over time, and it builds your community credibility, and it's just a system. Now, most realtors are allergic to systems. Y'all are good at people. And you're like, oh, Leigh, no, I keep it all right here. Yes, I know you have tons of knowledge in your beautiful little head. I'm fully aware. However, if you were to be hit by a beer truck this afternoon, all of that knowledge would be gone with you. All right? We've got to get it out of your head and on paper so that you can provide a superior client experience. And to whom are you providing this superior client experience? To your neighbors. That's what this is all about. How do we serve our neighbors? So when we're thinking about systems, it's no different than just building checklists. Now, I think most of y'all have been with me in a class before, so you know how I live, right? If you look at my video camera, look, it's sitting here on my dining room table, which is also my home office. It's kind of a wreck. I won't let y'all see the rest of it. Blue is for buyers. Yellow is for sellers. Why are they colored? So I can find them on my desk. You people are mainly living in a pile of white paper known as MLS sheets and septic maps and tax cards, and you can't tell nothing from nothing. And so I need to know where my seller suspects are so I can follow up with them, and my buyer suspects so that I can follow up with them. And if you want to know why I call them suspects and not prospects, you ain't a prospect until you have signed agency and have done your pre-approval, and you're not a client until you're under contract. That's in the Leigh Brown world. Until they have committed, they are suspect to me. So anyway, that's just a system. So let's build a checklist. I'm gonna show y'all how easy this is. Get a piece of paper and a pencil out. I'm looking at the cameras that are turned on to see who's got paper and pencil out. Somebody put something over their camera so I couldn't see them. I kind of love you for that. Oh, I see an ink pen over here. Good job, friend. High five with your cute blonde hair and flowered top. You look very nice today. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build a system. The other reason y'all don't build systems, besides the fact that you don't think you need them, is because you don't want to and you're not detail driven, okay? But details make your business better. So we're going to build a system we've all had to use at some point, and I'm going to actually write mine down as well because it helps me make sure I get everything out of my head. We're going to build the checklist for a price adjustment on a listing. We all have to adjust price on listings, right? Because even in our MLS right this second, when inventory is at record lows, do y'all have some listings gathering cobwebs in the MLS? Why do they gather cobwebs? Because the price is too high for the condition it's in, right? Happens in every market condition, and you look at them and you just kind of feel sorry for them. And I don't call it a price improvement. I'm going to challenge y'all on that. Realtors love to say price improvement. Do you know whose feelings that hurts? That hurts the seller's feelings. Y'all realize they do not find it to be an improvement to drop the price by $25,000, right? But yeah, we're out there rambling around on Instagram how this price is so much better. To whom do you owe the fiduciary responsibilities when you are the listing agent? Think about it. Think about it. So what I always say is I say new price in my marketing for changes in the price. You can call it a price adjustment, a reduction, but I call it a new price. Stop calling it an improvement. All right, so what's the first step in reducing the price on the listing? It is to acknowledge that we need to reduce the price, right? It's like the whole 12-step program. You have to know you got a problem before you can solve it. And as realtors, and I say this as one, okay, so I always talk to myself like I'm talking to y'all. In your head, you're kind of thinking, but it's really cute. And the comps support me, and it might just be tomorrow's showing that fixes it, right? Don't we go through all of these little things in our head to justify it? But in your logical part of your brain, you're like, okay, fine, I know it needs to come down, but I really want it to be right. We know we want to be right. Pricing's not an exact science. Pricing is fluid, and every house price is in a range. Who determines the house's ultimate sales price? Is it you, the realtor? It is not. So why do y'all tell people you control the price and get them the most money for their house? Y'all got to stop that. You need to be able to tell them it's the buyer, the appraiser, and the market that set the price for the house. All we're going to do is make our very best guess and see if we can't get in the ballpark. That's what you got to tell people listing houses, y'all. Our goal is to be in the ballpark. So now when we acknowledge it is too high, we're just going to have to move our position on the ball field. So the next thing we're going to do is call the seller and say, hey, we need to have a conversation. And they'll say, that's great. I wanted to talk to you anyway. And I say, I want to discuss our marketing strategy. I never, ever acknowledge that I want to talk price, because then they will duck me from here to kingdom come. I want to talk about market strategy. You know what the seller thinks I just said? Oh, she's going to do some extra marketing. Like I saved all my best ideas for when their house didn't sell. So no, we're going to call the seller. And now we're going to set an appointment by Zoom. I love doing these by Zoom for a couple of reasons. The first one is it reduces face-to-face time for people that are COVID nervous, and people that aren't COVID nervous. It still saves me a lot of time, because when y'all go to the kitchen table, you know it's 2 hours every damn time you walk in the house. Zoom calls are 15, 20 minutes, right? That's the best thing ever. And if you're smart, in your Zoom settings, you set it to record. The liability side of your brokerages would just love it all to pieces if all your client communications were recorded, so you could protect yourself from the crazy person who wants to sue you down the road. So we're setting this appointment with the seller, and I say, hey friend, let's have a meet up by Zoom. I want to talk about our market strategy. I just need about 15, 20 minutes. Now I could do it this afternoon. I'll be finished up around 4:40, or if you want to do it first thing in the morning, we could do 8 o'clock. What you want to do? Just classic sales closing, right? Give them 2 options. And I always pick a weird number like 4:40, because that sticks in their brain better than using 4 o'clock. And so I've given them 2 options, and they have picked one. I have sent them Zoom. And for those of y'all that say, oh, Leigh, I don't have tech savvy clients. Bullshit. You do too. They're using Zoom to talk to their grandkids and their kids in the Sunday school class and the bridge club and everything else. They know how to use Zoom. So quit it. And so I'm going to set that up. And then step 3, I'm going to run a new CMA. Why do I not update my CMA? I do a new one because it makes me get out of my preset biases towards me being right the whole time. As realtors, we love to be right, don't we? And so if you just go back and update your old CMA, you're probably, I'm letting them in. You're probably going to have 2 people come in right there. I'm probably going to have the problem of needing to be right. So if I do a brand new CMA, then I'm going to start from scratch and pretend I do not know this listing, which is going to make my data better. Plus it gives me a chance to explain to my seller that things may have changed in the last 30 days. Are y'all watching things change a little bit as we get towards fall? You're still in multiple offers, but it might not be 50-11 multiple offers. It might be 3. It might be a week on market instead of a day on market. And whenever you see little shifts, that's what your seller needs to know about, right? Because aren't those sometimes indicative of market changes? Even though right now I do believe it is seasonally driven, and I believe it is election driven, because people are living on a razor's edge right now. So we're going to do a new CMA. Number 4, we're going to have the appointment. And the reason I have that as a check block is because you also, like I, have sellers that will duck you if they can. And so I want to be able to say, yes, Lord, they met with me. And then number 5, they're going to agree to the new price, because then I have to win. So I got a number 5, they're going to agree. Number 6, I'm going to get it in writing. So this is the beauty of being on Zoom. I can make them sign. They will send it by DocuSign. I already had it preset, right? And so I've got it sent. Boom, boom. I'm like, go click. Click, click, thank you. I give it back. I've got it in writing. And all the brokers in the room said, amen. And number 7, I'm going to then turn it into the office. And all the brokers said, amen and hallelujah, because as your broker, I kind of hate it when you don't tell me about a price adjustment. I have to find out about it when the MLS updates. That's aggravating. So just turn it in. And then number 8, we're going to update the MLS. And then number 9, we're going to update our marketing on whatever websites we control. Knowing you can't control all of them, the MLS is going to syndicate, right? Number 10, I'm going to contact all of my suspects from the past who have inquired by text, Facebook, or email about this particular listing. And I love it. The cat just walked through when we talk about suspects. And then I'm going to update every broker that's ever shown the house or inquired about the house and tell them, hey, new price, woohoo. And then number 12, we have the step almost every realtor forgets. Because y'all are all thinking, Leigh, I do all those things. Why do I have to write this down? It's autopilot. I'm a pro. I know these things. I feel you. Right. But you're not doing number 12. Number 12 is the step that if you add this back in, you will stop having a seller block you. And by block you, I mean this. Have y'all ever reduced the price on a listing and then you did all this stuff and then an offer came in the next morning and it was one of those agents that had shown it 4 times in the past, but they couldn't get off the fence and then finally brought an offer. You called your seller. You're like, yeah, I got an offer. Whoop, 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 whoop. You're all excited and your seller goes, do you mean to tell me that if we had waited one more day, we'd have had an offer and you just made me negotiate against myself? And you could tell that buyer, I ain't coming a penny off the price and they can pound sand. And you're like, are you serious? The reason that happens, y'all, is because so often you're doing all the work and you never told anybody how hard you're working, ever. You're too busy posting that Instagram post that has that stupid Staples easy button. And you're like, I'm going to make real estate so easy. And you forgot to tell them how hard you're working. So step number 12 is called the seller. And here's how it goes. Hey, seller friend. Hey, I just want to let you know that since you approved that new price at 10 o'clock, I have done the following. I have updated every agent in my brokerage. I have updated every agent in our entire multiple listing service. And currently that's over 13,000 in Charlotte. And I updated every suspect and prospect that's ever called my office. Oh, and I updated all these different websites too. I think there's about 300 that we syndicate to. And I called all the brokers who've ever shown it or asked about showing them and told them we have a new price. I have done every level thing I can do to make sure the market knows that we are ready to roll and just want you to have a quick update. That's a 2-minute phone call. Your seller says, you did all that with a new price? Because what do they think you do with a new price? Type it in and move on. What if you told them the depth? That happens next is you called in and said, we got an offer. And they say, well, of course we did. You worked so hard for me. Now they see you differently. They're like, you were at bat for me. You weren't just reactive. You were proactive. That's what the checklist does, y'all. And the other best thing is, let's say you got to go on vacation and you call Brenda Leigh and say, Brenda Leigh, I need you to cover for me. She says, all right. And then she picks up your listing file and she looks at it and says, well, let me just look. And she's like, oh, man, ain't no price on this. And so the seller calls and says, Brenda Leigh, I know that Chelsea's out of town. I need to reduce the price. And Brenda's like, all right, let's talk for a minute. And she says, oh, well, there's a checklist in this file. Let me follow the checklist. And she says, here's the way Chelsea does it. Let me go through all these steps. The seller now thinks, well, damn, I hired an agent who knew what she was doing and conveyed that to another pro. I had a highly professional experience in real estate. They don't think we're making it up all the time. Now, y'all, I have a checklist for everything in my business. For every little piece of the business, there's a checklist. They all live in my listing files and my buyer files. And when I go to an appointment and I open up my little binder, they see all these checklists and the seller suspect says, what's all that? And I say, oh, it's everything in the business. We are constantly trying to not miss a step. And so these are living lists and we change them every time we find a mistake because things change and things happen. So I'm setting up that mistakes can happen. I'm setting up that every transaction is different. And I'm setting up that I'm a professional who cares about not missing a step. Y'all, they start looking at you as a different kind of realtor when you showcase this kind of dedication to the profession. It's just a different outlook. And so the way that you're going to build these systems, because some of y'all are already throwing up in your mouth a little bit. You're like, I can't do this. I don't have time. Well, you can, because you just jotted down one of them. So go to Google Docs, Microsoft Word, Pages, whatever it is you use for word processing. There's a checklist template in there. Type in what you just did. And when you do that, shazam, you have just built a price adjustment list. And Kelly, yes, I am an old person who needs paper. I am not paperless. So what I do is after I get everything written down, I scan it into Dropbox so my team can have it, but I cannot function without paper. I am a kinesthetic learner. And it actually, I think it wins me listings because they can actually see it and feel it themselves. And some of our suspect buyers and sellers need to know what you're doing. Sometimes paperless can be in our way. And plus, I feel like the trees are already dead, so I'm not really killing trees. Anyway, you already started your price adjustment list. Type it up, save it in your computer. Shazam, you have one. So what I tell my coaching clients is pretty simple. You need to do one a week. And then they'll say, but Leigh, what do I do them about? How do I get going? If you will Google in any real estate association, many of our association websites have this list that's like 400 things a realtor does to sell your home, or 160 things a realtor does. Everybody's got a different version. Find any of those lists. And what you'll find is that on all of those lists, there's an item in there that says adjust price on listing, comma, if needed. So I want you to think about something. If the if needed item has 12 steps to it, how many steps do your other items have? And so that's when you say each one of those items becomes its own mini checklist, mini system. So if you have 160 items in that list, that might be that it takes you 160 weeks to get it done. You're like, Leigh, it's not going to take me that long. Exactly. Just start crushing them out as you do them. So when somebody calls you and needs to sell their house, that's when you build that checklist for an incoming seller. It's why my incoming seller sheet has down here, did we pull the RPR report? Did we pull the Altos report? Did I pull their USDA eligibility? Did I pull their septic map? All of the things I'm going to do are on this sheet, so that when I pick up this file, I will know how much has already been done, or anybody in my office can, so that I can provide a more professional client experience to the people who've entrusted me with their largest financial instrument. I'm telling you, you'll do a better job of systematizing your business when you take 2 seconds to realize what a big deal you are. I think we forget that sometimes as realtors. We forget that what we do is so critical and so important, and that we're the only resource a lot of our neighbors have. You can't get any of these questions answered. You're not going to get this kind of depth of knowledge from an app or a website or AI. It's only from the human realtor. Now, I'll point out to you briefly, as you're putting together systems, don't forget you. This is one of your included tools as a member of the National Association, financialwellness.realtor. Of course, I'm attached to this because I helped build it with President Bill Brown in 2017. I was a stockbroker in a past life, so I know just enough to be dangerous. But what you want to think about from financial wellness perspective is, A, our clients need us to provide better financial guidance when it comes to considering real estate investment. Many of you don't do investments because you don't own any investments. And one of the other goals of financial wellness was to encourage more realtor members to become investors in real estate and stabilize your financial portfolio that way, but also to think about how you can provide more options to every client you serve. So this is a free website. And I'll point out to you, by the way, when you go to it, there's an assessment tool. When we built this, we did not build this to gather what you're putting in there from a personal standpoint. We're only looking at how long people stay in the site. You log in with your NERDS number, but we're not looking at your stuff. We're just wanting to know how sticky it is and how many complete the assessment. I was kind of persnickety about that. So I'll also point out to you, if you're going to be financially well, you need to stop spending so much damn money on shit you don't need. Okay, that's the Leigh Brown Mama Hen advice. And I'm gonna tell you something. If y'all know all 16 digits of your credit card plus the security code and the expiration date by heart, you need to change the card. And here's what I mean. Don't cancel the account, but you're going to call MasterCard and say, hey, I dropped my card at the Albertsons last week, and I wasn't going to touch it because, you know, the COVID. So can you send me a new one? They will send you a new credit card with a new number on it. It won't change your credit score or your account, but suddenly you will not know all 16 digits. And then your pocketbook needs to sit on the other side of the kitchen so that when you get on Amazon and you want to buy something you don't need, you'd have to physically get up and walk over there to get it and come back. It will slow your roll. You guys work so hard for your money. Commission dollars are hard to come by. You need to be a better steward of them. Stop it right now. And by the way, you need 2 cards, a business card and a personal card, so that you can easily segregate the expenses out that you're spending on your business. Be tough with yourself, y'all. Tough love. Okay, so when you're thinking about tough love, you about to get the homework you did not want. So don't be logging off. Let me see how many you're in. Oh, we already lost 2. They got busy with something. The rest of y'all, I'm watching the numbers now, okay? Your database is a problem, okay? And by this, I mean that many of you have become digital hoarders. You hoard people like that television show, People Hoard Stuff. And so if I were to go and look at your contact manager and ask you who this person is, you'd be like, I don't know. Because you go to an open house and meet somebody, you're like, let me just save you in my phone. And then a month later, you don't have the foggiest idea who it is, because 4 other people have entered your life since then, and you're realtors. You don't retain things, right? We can blame the children. Now, that's one of the gifts that mothers have. After childbirth, your memory goes away. I used to have a very good vocabulary. I don't know what men blame it on, but women blame it on childbirth. You probably need some ginseng, but we got to clean it up, okay? This is not clean. By the way, this thing ain't a database. Your contact manager, that's a Rolodex. You are not going to be able to operate your business with this thing. This is for close people, okay? Realtors are using this as a lazy crutch. So it's time to clean, okay? And here's how we're going to clean up our database. Stop thinking about your database as numbers. Realtors love to swing this around. Well, I've got 12,000 people on my newsletter list. What? You've got 12? I've got 23,000. Who gives a rip? That's just numbers. If you think back to what we've been talking about this whole time, the beauty of your real estate business is the relationships and the depth and the people who know you, love you, like you, and trust you. That's your people. No more thinking about leads and database sizes. Got to love on your people. Here's what it looks like. Figuring out who in this is your people. And y'all, not everybody is your people, okay? You have permission to say, well, that person's an asshole and I don't want to hang out with them. If you know anything about me, you know, that's my whole goal in life is to run an asshole-free business. And for those of y'all that can't handle my spicy language, then I'm so sorry. But real estate is a space that spice is needed in. I mean, we need a little salt. Bible says we need salt and light, just for the record. So anyway, you got to narrow this down. And when I'm thinking about my people, it's the ones with whom I have a two-way relationship. Oftentimes our database, those newsletter contacts, that's one way. We're pushing stuff out to them, hoping that one day they'll respond. Your people, those best core people, are two-way. They know your kids and your grandkids and what you eat for supper, and they love you as a human. The realtor part is secondary. These are people that when you call them, they don't ever yell at you and say, put me on the do not call list. And who are you? And how'd you get my phone number? That's not your people. Your people see you in the grocery store. And they're the ones that sneak over and say, should we be thinking about it? And you're like, listen, let me call you back in a minute when we're not in the produce aisle and we can talk in private because this is confidential stuff. And they want you to call them. They want to trust you and want to love you. And I'm just going to tell you that the number is a lot smaller than you realize. In real estate, we like to think about how size matters. It's not. It's this number right here. It's called Dunbar's number. So this was a British psychologist who started this research in the 90s, trying to figure out how many relationships a human can handle. And he's updated the research multiple times. And what's fascinating is even in a social world, this number does not move. Dunbar's number says that the average human can manage 150 relationships. That's it. So you're sitting there thinking, but Leigh, I know more than that. I know that you know them, but I want you to think about what the 150 looks like. These are the people that know your mama fell and broke her hip before you posted it on social media. They know what you're going through because you are in relationship with them. If you have a past client whose baby just turned 1 and you saw it on Facebook and said, oh my gosh, her baby's a year old, that's not your 150. It doesn't mean they can't be in your database. They can't be in your newsletter, but it means they're not this group. Okay, y'all? And I'll tell you, here's how you're going to figure it out. You go through your contact list and you see this name. You're like, I love her. Oh my gosh. And you just hit call right then. That's your 150. You have a lot of people in here you love and you know and you respect and they're good friends. And you're like, oh yeah, I know him and her and her and him and him and him and her and her and her. But the 150, you see them and you go, it's a visceral reaction. These are the people that you do life with. And so if you're wondering why I'm talking about this, y'all, that's how your business survives and thrives over time in real estate, because it's estimated that 1/3 of the American adult population does something related to real estate every year. 1/3. Now here's what it looks like. Some of them are buying, some are selling, some are doing a refi, some are putting in granite in the house, some just have a question about this, but they have something going on related to real estate in the course of the year. So in that 150, that means 50 of them are going to need you in the course of a year. So how often are you talking to the people in your database? Sometimes you don't talk to the 10,000 because you can't get to 10,000. So you send out this boring, dull, and dreadful newsletter that nobody's ever going to respond to because it's cut and paste, or you bought it from a service and it's dreadful. And so then you can't even help them. The 150 though, when they reach out to you, those 50 who needed something, real estate's now here at the top of their consciousness. So now they're on social media, they're in a mom text thread, they're out at the grocery store, they heard real estate and they said, oh, hey, come here. Hey, Abby's my girl. So if you're talking about real estate, call Abby. Why are you waving at me? Oh, did I miss somebody? Hang on a minute, chat block. Oh, that's my warning sign. Yes, okay, thank you. You are so good at the warning sign because it looked very panicky. So I need that in my life. Thank you. Okay. All right. So when you're thinking about these 150, this is what it looks like. So how many of y'all look at this picture and you want to sit down with this group? You know why you want to sit down with them? What's the first thing you notice on their faces? Smiles. They're looking at each other. There's eye contact. There's no device there, no phone, no iPad, not even a smart watch. I mean, the one dude with the watch, it's an old analog watch, and they're engaged with each other. Y'all, as you think about a post-coronavirus era and a normal world where we can stop wearing these stupid masks, the 150 are the people you want to sit down with first. That's the ones you crave their company. For most of you, your clients aren't people you crave, they're people you conduct transactions with. And so, yes, Janice, I saw the coffee too, sister. And so you want to go back and sit down and have coffee with them? So your 150, they feel the same way about you. They want to see you. They love you. They crave you. So I want to challenge you on something. Reach out as you go through. You're going to have to clean your database. That means delete, 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 keep. And so delete might mean moving them out of your phone and into your newsletter list so that your phone is just your 150. For me, my phone is my 150, plus it is my current transactions because I need to know how to get to my current transactions quickly. And it is my most beloved realtors to whom I talk all the time. And then my database in my KV core and in my newsletter houses everybody else. I do that so that I can stay really focused on maintaining those 150 without feeling overwhelmed. I did this with a group in Daytona Beach, and my most successful student had 4,000 names in his phone. He got down to 300, and he said the way he felt was just, because now he looks at his phone and it's easy to make phone calls because it's just the 300 that he feels connected to. And that's a real big break for you. So you're going to call the 300, and here's what you're going to say to them, because I always love this part. Leigh, what am I supposed to say when I call people? Well, ask them, do you want my emails? I always love asking that. And then when you talk to some people, they're like, no. Like, what? Why? I always get offended. And then I say, why don't you want them? And they say, I don't need it. If I need something with real estate, I'm just going to call you or text you. And I say, well, that's fine. I said, but if somebody's looking at them, you know, what would you want to see? It'll make you click on it. And that was when one of my clients, or one of my 150, he said, well, I watch your little videos on Facebook. If you would just post the recipe in there so I didn't have to watch the whole video, I'd like to have your recipes. And I was like, well, shit, I should have thought about that. That was stupid on my part. I said, I'm on it. And so I threw the recipe PDF, JPEG from Canva in there with the video link. My opens went through the roof. And I was like, damn. So think about it. Your clients and your best people are often going to give you insights that a regular person would not. And if you respond and react to that, then it changes your dynamic because people love being heard. And then, of course, this shouldn't have been new to the coronavirus era, but it's something we've got to think about regularly when we're touching base with people. Y'all good? Y'all need anything? How can I help you? Just to be less real estate-y and more human. Because we've learned that in this era, there's shortages of things and people have issues and concerns and fears. Checking on them is massively important. And then I always lean into, so I'm like, well, we found some store brand toilet paper. Y'all find any of the Cottonelle, 2-ply, or Ripple, the good stuff? People laugh when you think about what they're talking about. And of course, for us, that has shifted to Clorox wipes. Now I ask where the Clorox wipes are located because I'm tired of having to fake it. I don't know about y'all, but I put some paper towels in my car in an empty Clorox wipe container, dipped them in rubbing alcohol. So my clients will think that I have Clorox wipes when I'm showing houses. I figure the rubbing alcohol must work, but damn, you can't find them things. And it's a showing requirement anyway. Let people know that you're real, you're relatable, and you're human. I didn't really leave us any time for question and answer, but if you think of a question, ask ask me during the next session, because I'm going to jump us back over to Cindy so she can set up chat rooms. Oh, that text code's wrong. Okay, so don't look at the text code. We had to change it. It's 47-177 for you advanced people for all the free stuff. Hang on a minute. Text that word kicktail to 47-177 instead. We missed a spot. Snap. Or if you're allergic to text, you can go to learnwithleigh.com, and all of my downloads are there, including my intake sheets, including stuff we didn't talk about here because, frankly, y'all know I'm kind of lazy. I put all my downloads on one page. And I don't have my new book on this slide either. I need to get after it, Lord. See, I need to make a checklist for updating my slides. Okay, let me flip this back to Women's Council.
All righty, ladies. So we're all back. And Leigh, I turned over hosting to you. So I guess we're into series 3 now.
Right, that can take back over again. All right. And, oh, where'd they go? Oh, I was showing something else. Let's see. Go back and fix my slides. I was going to show an example of something I was doing. I do love the ability to share screen on Zoom. That's like my favorite thing. And in fact, I was just sitting here texting my new seller suspect who came to me by watching my videos online, and we're setting up a Zoom meeting so that he can decide he wants to pay me all the money to sell his house. Okay. Which, just for the record, I was using Zoom to do buyer and seller consults for the last few years. Ever since they came around, I used other software before Zoom, but as a traveling speaker who was still producing and doing real estate, I've been using Zoom to do consultations for a long time. It's the best. So you should probably keep this as part of your long-term business plan. And I tell you, I deal with a lot of elderly people and a lot of divorces. The best thing in the world is to video record those listing consultations, because they can share it with their respective attorneys or siblings or children or whoever all is involved in the decision. And you look like an amazing pro. Okay, so.
Just for 1 minute, I just want to remind you that somebody might be trying to come in. So I'll try and text you or send you a message.
It's
But
fine.
you're
I now know
hosting?
what the red dot means beside participants. It means somebody's trying to get in.
Yep, there you go. So just if you could keep an eye out for that, and then I think that's it.
Okay, so just a reminder, at the end of the last session, you notice in the chat block, the correct phone number to text to is 47-177 with the word kicktail. And I asked my assistant why some of y'all weren't able to get the free stuff, and she said some of you may have certain text opt-in blocks on your carrier settings. And so if it does not get you a response back, go to learnwithleigh.com and download all the free stuff to your heart's content. Okay, so if you had any questions that were lingering from the first session or any clarifications that you needed, feel free to drop it into the chat, and we'll dig into what I believe is our opportunity going forward. So in the first hour, we were talking about getting your business reconfigured, refocused on systematizing and being more consistent so that you can provide that depth of experience to your clients. Well, that doesn't matter. I know, right? My bad grammar just snuck out of my mouth with my accent. I guess it's just going to happen sometimes. But you've got to think about what all of this means if there is no future for real estate. And one of the biggest fears realtors have has been, right, so before pandemic, if I take you back to February of 2020, which feels like a century ago, right? So February was a different era altogether. You look back at February, your number one concern in your marketplace was likely, oh my gosh, we don't have enough inventory. And you fast forward to September of 2020, and what's your number one concern in your market? Oh my gosh, we don't have enough inventory. Well, if you go back to February and I asked you what your secondary concern was, what was bothering you about real estate, for many of you, you would have said it was something external. And that could be AI, AR, the disintermediation of realtors. Are we even going to have a job? Are we going to be replaced? Are people ever going to use us again? There's Open Door and OfferPad and iBuyer and all these other things at the edges that were scaring you. And those things happen when realtors lose focus on what our role actually is. And this is not a fix-it job for the National Association or for Women's Council or for Michigan Realtors or for WMLAR or wherever you belong, GMAR. It is the job of you to help people understand where we fit. So I'm going to give you a very stark contrast here. Now, full disclosure, I make the slides, and because I make the slides, that's my version of eye candy. So if that's not your version of eye candy, you have permission to do this, cover up your sweet little eyes and envision something different. But to me, that is beauty. And so I want you to look at the beauty over there on one side of the screen and think about something. After you say that is very admirable, you got to think about what you have to do to get to that point. That's not somebody that woke up in the morning and said, today I'm going to be fit. And they worked out one time and got results. That's not the person on January 1st who sets a New Year's resolution and says, this is the year I get in shape. This is the person who said, I want to achieve a goal that probably at the beginning felt insurmountable, unrealistic, unachievable, so far outside the realm of possibility that it was just way out there, and said, I want to do something big, bold, unique, and very, very striking. And then from here to that long way off in the future, what did it take? Well, it took a daily decision. The daily decision of, when I wake up, am I going to do the hard work or am I not? And I'm going to tell you, to get to that point, that's a person who on a lot of mornings woke up and said, I don't want to. Oh, I don't want to. I'm tired. I'm sore. I'm not in the mood. I'm too busy. I drank too much last night. I didn't get enough sleep. There's every excuse in the world. And every excuse still comes down to that one space where you have to make the choice of, do I do the hard things or do I not? And so he chose, obviously, more mornings than not to do the hard work. And you see that he's lifting in there by himself. We know that one of the hardest things about the coronavirus era, the 2020 timeframe, is that a lot of what you've had to do, you've no longer been able to do in community. You've had to do it alone. Because let's be honest, Zoom is not a replacement for community. Zoom is a little bit of a crutch, but it is not the same thing as sitting side by side, going to the ladies' room and standing in line. And gentlemen, y'all don't know, but a lot of things happen in the line of the ladies' room. And it's minus the hugs and the, oh, you need a tissue? I've got one for you. Oh, can I get you a cup of coffee when I get up? Those little things that start binding us together. We haven't had that. And so they start to fray. And for most people, even in their personal lives with fitness, it's frayed during this time frame because you don't have your workout buddy because your gym is closed, and who's going to see you when you're at home in your yoga pants day after day? So who cares? And the choice every day of do the hard work or not becomes harder and harder to choose the hard work. I'll also point out that there's more than working out that gets you to that final goal. There's often external things that have to happen that don't always seem like they have to happen, but without them, they're just not going to get you there. And that's, this dude figures out what to eat. I will never have any kind of a decent physique because I like butter a lot. I love sugar, and I really enjoy a nice glass of adult beverage at the end of the day. Not willing to give that up. So I'm never going to achieve a goal in that space way out here because of other choices that I make. Because every day it's the choice of do the hard things or don't do the hard things. And that's what happens in real estate, right? So we have the hard things, which would include phone calls. Outbound phone calls. Oh no, I'm not going to ask you to make outbound phone calls, but Leigh, I have text, I have Facebook Messenger, I have all the excuses in the world. Those are the hard choices to make. The hard choice to make that says I'm going to build a checklist because I know I need it even though I don't want to is a hard choice to make. And they don't seem like they all add up, but every day your choices add up. And friends, you're either going to wind up like eye candy or you're going to wind up like Homer Simpson. And if this hurts your feelings, then I might be hitting a little too close to home, because for many of us, the not making the hard choices lands in bad choices. And in real estate, you know, there's a wide chasm between the top producer, market owners with stellar reviews and stellar client experiences, and then the rest of the realtors. And I'll tell you this, you know this already. 1.4 million members in the National Association of Realtors, and in the 12-month rolling period, 70%, that's a 70%, did between 0 and 1 transactions. 70%. That's a Homer Simpson choice. And if that's you, you already know that getting mad at me does not solve it. The only thing that takes you from 0 to 1 transactions to 20 transactions or 40 transactions or 100 is daily doing hard things. And hard things doesn't mean big coaching programs and big high dollar buying leads. The hard thing is the phone calls and the relationships. And I don't know why we've made it so hard. I honestly think that it was easier back in the early days of my career. 20 years ago, we did not have smartphones. I had a bag phone in my car, $10 a minute, emergencies only. My dad got in the business in 1978. He only had the wall on the phone in the kitchen with a double long cord so he could walk away from the children and hear somebody on the phone. And so we've taken the things that we knew were important and we've substituted it with a really surface life of social media, where we give ourselves all the excuses not to do hard work. So what do? Think about it. If you knew this was coming, so just suck it up for a second. If you think about what it takes to become Mr. Eye Candy, it's all the choices, all the hard work. And what does the hard work look like in real estate besides phone calls? It's building relationships. It's building relationships before you make an ask. If you want to know why most realtors flame out, just consider how they approach the business. They go in and make an ask. And today's consumer hates that. You know how much you hate it. If you go to a car dealership, you don't want somebody to be like, hey, I got a new car today. What are you looking for? What's your budget? How can I help you? You want to walk in and say, so I was looking at the new Ford Bronco online, and I had a question about this package. And the salesman says, oh, okay, well, let me give you some information sheets and let me guide you. And could I help you? Did you want to see it? They start answering before they start asking. You do the same thing as a great realtor. And you build these relationships. Sometimes it's for a month and sometimes it's for years. And then the ask just becomes a natural part of the relationship. Just like for Mr. Eye Candy, getting up and working out is now just part of who he is. He's used to doing it. Those of y'all that know me, you know, I'm a runner, but I only became a runner in 2012 because I was a size I did not want to be. And I saw some pictures and I said, oh, that is not my future. I'm not doing that. And so I had to do all the hard things. And now I do the hard things anyway, because I'm used to doing the hard things. And the same thing happens with your business. You get used to doing the hard things and they add up, and it happens with politics too. And so if you think about this, our RPAC lives have never been more impactful on our neighbors than they have been this year. The Realtors Political Action Committee is 51 years old. Think about that. For 51 years, realtors across the country have been building relationships so that we could make an ask if needed. We are proactive advocates. We go in and say, this is who we are. This is who we serve. We would love to answer your questions. We've got stats on home ownership. We want to be a part of solutions. And so you think about it, we are a member benefit. The only people who can play in our PAC are you and your immediate family members and our affiliate members. But the general public that wants to be a part of our PAC can't do it because it's ours, it's for members. But we're so unique. We're the only political advocacy group out there that speaks for communities without special interest involved. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, consider this. This year has been painful in a lot of different ways for the ways that our lives have been changed and the ways that our elected officials have made decisions that they did or didn't have the power to do. Regardless, they've made decisions affecting our lives. Well, in March, when we were in the throes of the shutdown economy and the throes of thinking we were all going to die from the coronavirus because all the information was new and nobody knew anything. So in Washington, D.C., their response is normally just to start printing money and handing it out, right? Elected officials of all parties and shapes and sizes, they love handing out money. And so their CARES Act comes around in March, and there are seats at the table. And y'all, every group in the United States was at there with a handout, give us some money, give it to us, give it to us. The realtors had a seat at the big kids table, like the one where the aunts and uncles sit, not the card table in the corner where you have to sit until your aunt dies, but at the grown-ups table, we were there. And why did we have a seat there? Because of 51 years of building relationships and doing the hard work of staying connected to elected officials. And here's the thing you have to know about the future of you as a realtor and the future of us as a profession of real estate. Everybody else at that table had a handout for themselves. And the conversation comes to the realtors. And we're lucky to have Shannon McGann at the table for us, one of DC's most powerful women who's connected on both sides of the aisle and has a passion for us and who we serve. And Shannon says the realtors want to make sure there's help for independent contractors. And I want you to notice something about us. We didn't ask for help for realtors. We asked for help for all independent contractors. So think about that for a second. We have 1.4 million members. We could have made an ask just for us, and it's still a large swath of the public. But that's not who realtors are. We said there needs to be help for insurance agents and for contractors and for landscapers and house cleaners, hairdressers and nail techs. Anybody out there that's a 1099 independent contractor is at risk. And we made an ask for those people, which happens to be the bulk of our neighbors in our communities. If you've ever wondered why realtors are important and why we're part of these conversations, it's because of the way that we look at things. And you think about the way that you look at a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, you don't come in there guns a-blazing ready to like tell them what to do. You go in there and find out what they need and how you can help create solutions. I've never been prouder of us. I've never been prouder to be a realtor who's involved in the kind of advocacy efforts that we've done this year. When the rest of the world is determined to fight and divide, the realtors were determined to unify and look after each other. It's pretty amazing stuff. And so if you think about it in that way, you start to realize that there's a message here that has to get out there. Our clients don't know what we've done. The other independent contractors in the world don't know what we've done and how we've approached this time. And don't they need to know? Because the public thinks that realtors are a bunch of blood-sucking money grubbers and all y'all do is dress up and drive around and get paid thousands of dollars till you don't do shit for your money. And they don't think that we do anything because so many realtors are transactionally driven. And all they're doing is sticking a sign in a yard and sticking a house in the multiple, and they're just kind of hoping it sells, when there are actually realtors out there like many of y'all who are carrying the water for their entire communities, and our public needs to know that. So you'll notice that in my Zoom camera, my pin shows up really well. And those of y'all that have a major investor pin, I thank you for the investments that you've made. And for those of y'all that don't have one, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna make you some money if you'll wear it in places that are also populated by non-realtors, because many of y'all wear this pin only around one another, and it's a way that we peacock amongst ourselves and we stratify and say who's at this level and who's there. But the more important time to wear this is around clients and around the public. And so if I'm on a listing appointment by Zoom, buyer consultation by Zoom, I say, I want y'all to notice this in my camera. See this? It's my most expensive piece of jewelry. And what this means is that in addition to being honored if I can sell this house for you, because boy, howdy, I can sell it. And in addition to being selected to help you find a home because I can help you win a house, I write checks and I make visits to elected officials. And I do that so that you will have the right to sell a house and you will have the right to buy a house now and in the future. I have 2 teenagers in my house. They don't own property yet. I would like them to have that opportunity because America, the last place on earth with good property rights. The house that people get to buy, that's the cornerstone of the American dream. That's what I do. Y'all, it changes the conversation because your competitors are after the listing. They want the listing. They want the buyer. They want the commission. They want to get it done. Chalk it up. Add a notch to the bedpost. Sell another one. Sell another one. If you change that conversation and tell that consumer that you care about their long-term viable rights, you just changed everything they think about you as a realtor. You also change what they say about you when they talk to their clients and customers. And I tell you, this is the reason that when I'm passing out a client referral, I make sure that the receiving agent is not just a CRS, because I do require that they have the highest level of residential education. I require that they're a major investor with RPAC. I won't give a referral if you're not a major investor. And this is why. I need to make sure that my clients who know how vested I am, that they believe all realtors are. And so I've got to hand them to somebody else who is equally vested in protecting their property rights. I don't know if I have to be the one to remind y'all or not, but there is no National Association of Homeowners. There's just us. We're the ones that stand in the gap and help people have a voice who don't have a voice and help make sure there's opportunities in every community. You have to tell that story. It's really important. And I know we have the beautiful campaign with NAR, the That's Who We Are. It's very beautiful. It's warm and fuzzy and mushy, but I would just adapt that right now and say that this is our time. Because I got to tell y'all that when we're thinking about the work that we as realtors have done to protect our communities and to let them know that professional realtors care about more than just one more sale, who else was out there helping? Y'all notice what happened to, there's a tree in my yard. It's a willow tree. Y'all own any willow trees out there? You don't like willow trees, right? Because they just kind of wave around with the wind and they're not real tough. And if a big storm comes, that willow tree will fall over. Should I point out that during the worst times of the pandemic, when nobody knew which end was up and the stock market was in free fall and nobody knew when we could show a house again and sellers were lost and buyers were confused, the only people in the space considering real estate needs was realtors. All of these third-party apps and companies that make money on real estate, where the hell were they? They were all in the back wing saying, well, I don't know what to do right now. And they pulled back. We redoubled our efforts. People need to understand that when we're talking about saving and supporting local business, that includes realtors. And it kind of made my heart sad that during the worst of this year, everybody was making a push to protect restaurants. Let's go buy some gift certificates, buy food, take care of our restaurants. I sure was wishing to see a hashtag go that was support your local realtor, because the public doesn't seem to understand that each of us is a tiny independently owned micro business too. And that if people want to keep realtors around to help with things like advocacy and to help with their questions when we're not getting paid for it, they need to support their local realtor too. And they will, y'all, if we let them know that we're here in the gap. We didn't go anywhere. We don't run away if our shareholders aren't making money because we don't have shareholders. You're not beholden to anybody except the clients that hire you, which is why you do such an amazing job. You feel that responsibility and you showcase it. So now is the time. When there's uncertainty, people need realtors, which means that if they would understand what we do right now, then when the market goes back to normal, they won't forget us so quickly. So you need to educate yourselves. And if you're not up to speed on where we are, go to realtorparty.realtor anytime and see what we're doing on the federal level. Our big thing right now, as some of you may know, there was an executive order about 2 weeks ago that says renters were cool till the end of the year, don't have to pay rent if you're under a certain income level. And that's caused an enormous amount of trouble for our landlords. And if you did not know it, over 70% of investment property is under 10,000 square feet and owned by individuals. And so when you have this gift given to tenants, it is a drain on investors who need that rent to make their mortgage payment, or are elderly who had a couple of rental properties to have income in their waning years. And so what's today, Thursday? Tuesday, the NAR leadership met with the White House administration to explain why realtors are speaking up for landlords, because unfortunately some of the people in decision-making positions think that all landlords are giant conglomerates and hedge funds with big, deep pockets full of money, and they forget that most investors are normal people. But that's what your realtor party does. We're the voice for those who don't know how to get up into the White House and have those conversations. And that's what we're working on right now. We're hopeful that we'll get some help there. And if you think about what else we do as realtors, we're focused on making sure that our neighbors have the chance to buy a house if that's what they want to do. I love our new assets that are out. The link on the screen is where y'all can download these assets as members of NAR. The one in the middle is my favorite. I don't like the one on the end because it just looks like a tunnel and they make me nervous, but I do like the yard sign, where it just reminds people that it's realtors are people, and we're people who care about people, you know, neighbors. So I got to point out to you, when we're talking about fair housing, it's easy to turn it into a black and white issue, and that's not what it is. Fair housing is the way that you look at the community where you live, and how do we create a thriving situation for all neighbors? All neighbors. And what that means is we need to have great landlords so they can provide great rental opportunities for people who choose to be tenants, because some people don't want to own a house. That's cool. I want to make sure we got good, smart landlords. We've got people in our community who don't know they can buy a house because maybe they ran into one bad realtor one time who shot them down and they didn't know they could buy. But what if that person is you that can change it? And I want you to think about this in 12 minutes. I'm not going to use 12 minutes to explain it, but I want you to think about how you can invest 12 minutes and change somebody's future forever. Here's how that works. You've had this phone call. Hey, Leigh Brown, I got your name from Alicia, and I was thinking maybe about buying a house, and I don't know where to start. You've all had that phone call, right? Where they just don't even know how to get the words out because they're kind of scared of you because you're a realtor. You're kind of high up in their eyes. And you say, yes, I love Alicia. That's good. So let me hook you up with my lender and she'll tell you what you need to do. And yeah, we'll go find you a house, no problem. All right, look, you did the connection, right? It's what you do right away. Get them to a lender, let them find out. Then your lender calls you and says, girl, So let me just tell you about this. That girl's got a credit score is like 510. She ain't buying, not now, probably not ever. Shit, it's like 5 years away. All right, who's had that phone call? We've all had it, right? Here's your uncomfortable moment. What does a realtor do with that lead now that you know she's a 510 credit score and ain't buying? The really good realtors do this. They say, hey, so my lender says that it's probably going to be a little while and she's going to give you some steps. And then when you need me, you call me. All right. All right. All right. That's what the good realtors do, right? What do the rest of them do? They just drop her like a hot potato. They never call her back, right? Uncomfortable, aren't you? Because this is the real world. And in your head, you're already arguing with me. You're like, but Leigh Brown, I don't have time to help people that can't buy because I got to feed my family too. I feel you, friends. I feel you, but that's an excuse to not do the hard work. All right. So here's what we need to consider. 2020, there is a condition happening amongst, I'd say under the age of 30. And I'm medium, so y'all don't get to know how old I am. Some of y'all are medium plus, but the younger people of today, they have no resilience. The parents haven't raised them to forge through and push through a brick wall and find a way. Can y'all agree with me on that? Parents have coddled the shit out of their kids, and some of y'all are those parents, and y'all know you're guilty, so you got to fix your kids. But anyway, we have this generation with no resilience. If you tell her, hey, it's going to be 3 years, what does she do? She gives up on home ownership, because we have a generation that just gives up and says, screw it, I'll never buy a house, because they have this need for immediate gratification, right? If they can't buy today, they just go on and do something else. But I got to get y'all to think about this differently. Some of those folks don't just lack resilience, they lack confidence. They don't have anybody cheering for them in their corner. But you're realtors. You're very optimistic, enthusiastic, positive people. Y'all are very good at cheering for people. So here's what I want you to think of instead. And y'all raised teenagers in your house at some point. Did you ever tell them to go down the hall and clean their room or clean the bathroom? And so they went down there. And then you went down there to look behind them and they hadn't done not nary a thing. Anybody ever had that happen in your house? And you said, yeah. You said, I'll be back. And you came back into the kitchen and then you went back down there 10 minutes later and they were cleaning, right? Because you had shown them that you were going to come check on them. That's what it looks like to be the realtor who's going to do the hard work. So she can't buy today. And I want you to spend 12 minutes on her over 3 years. You're going to go to your Google Calendar and set a tickler every 6 months, name and phone number, check in. You're going to call her and say, hey, friend, hey, this is Leigh Brown over at One Community Real Estate. Hey, so you and I talked about 6 months ago, my lender gave you a list of things so that one day you can buy a house. I'm just checking on you. See if you need anything. You good? All right. They're going to screen you out at first. What I have found is that it's on that second phone call a year later when it's, so I'm glad. Yeah. So the lender told me I need to be paying off my Target card and I've been working on that. And I don't like, you know what? I'm not the money expert. Let's rope her back in so she can update your information. But you know, I'm here with you, sister. I'm here with you. That's what it looks like to solve a lot of our crisis with home ownership and fair housing. It's not to do things for people. It's not to force them to do things they don't want to do, but it's to be the encourager who kind of sticks around and says, I got you. You want to get there? I'm going to hang with you till we get you there. I think in the past, we thought of our job as opening the door. I see our job as opening the door and then walking through it with somebody and then coming back in to see if they're on step 3, if they've made any progress or not. Knowing you can't make everybody move forward. Not everybody wants it. Not everybody's going to do the hard work. I'm not suggesting that they will, but I am suggesting that as the realtor, if you invest a couple of minutes in telling them that you've got their back and you're going to encourage them, that you can change their family's future forever. That's how big of a deal you are. That home ownership is the key to financial security in the future. And only realtors can get there. You realize that, right? Most of your preferred lenders, when they get that low credit score person, they stick them on some automated text thing. What do people do with automated text? Nothing. That's not going to encourage somebody to move forward and ask questions. Maybe you're a realtor, you stick them in your newsletter and it's automated. That's not going to encourage anybody. Y'all know that, right? It's your ability to help somebody with a personalized solution that gets them to make positive steps forward. And what happens in our communities when we have more homeowners and tenants? Neighborhoods do better. There's lower crime, there's more safety, people have pride of ownership, kids do better in school when they have stability of housing. By the time that person gets to retirement, they've got a possibility of a stable retirement, all because of owning a home. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like all my neighbors should know that there's a pathway. Not just some neighbors, but all my neighbors. So when you post stuff like these collateral items in your social media on occasion, not all the time, don't be annoying, but just pipe it in there every so often and say, hey, anybody needs help, I'm cool. Just let people know that you're the cool one they can reach out to. Because it's that connection that gets people to take those next steps forward. They might not have a mom and daddy that came from a history of home ownership. They might not know they can get there. They might not know that there's loan programs available. They might not know about down payment assistance. They might not know that they can buy cheaper than they can rent until they find the human who says, well, did you know? Did you know? I got a guy. Again, you look back at political advocacy and what that looks like and things that apps can't do, things that websites won't do. Well, this is the same thing. Apps and websites can never replace your interpersonal connection with somebody. And I'll give you the stat to prove to you why this is worth it. Some of y'all are metrics people. Well, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors is Dr. Lawrence Yun, as y'all know, and I love Lawrence Yun. That is the most optimistic man to ever live. He is all rainbows and sunshine and unicorns and believes it is always a good time to buy or sell a house, which I don't agree with, but it's always a good time for somebody. So anyway, Dr. Lawrence Yun gave a stat last year that it froze and burned in my brain. Y'all know there's those moments where something just embeds itself. Get this. At the age of 65, when somebody's retirement eligible, if they have been a renter for their whole lives. They've accumulated in the United States an average of $5,000 to $7,000 in savings at 65. And some of y'all know why. Divorce happens, kids happen, medical emergencies happen. But if you look at the fact that they're lifelong renters, you know that rents escalate and increase over time. And it's just hard to catch up when the cost of living keeps moving. So they get to 65, they're retirement eligible, but they can't retire on $5,000 to $7,000. So what do? If you're in a physically demanding job, you can't keep working 65, whether we want to admit it or not. Things are starting to fall off the tracks. And I mean, frankly, it's just going to get harder. So they go drive the rental shuttle for the car dealership, or work at the Walmart, or get a real estate license, because you just dress up and drive around. So go find something else to do with themselves after the age of 65, but their choices are limited. Take the other side of that. Same 65-year-old is retirement eligible, but they've owned their own home. An average of $200,000 in savings. You want to talk about a gap. $5,000 to $7,000 and $200,000. And before you start arguing with me, you sweet, overly logical people that say, but Leigh, it's illiquid and it's in their primary residence and they can't really have it. Yeah, you can, because the person who owns their own home has freedom. Their daughter needs to come back because she lost her job, and they can say, come on home, baby. I got room. It's my house. You can stay here. And she's got a grand puppy because they were hoping for a grandchild. They don't have one. You've got a grand puppy. The grand puppy can come home because it's their house. And then there's a medical emergency, but they can get an equity line because it's their house. And suddenly they have flexibility and freedom that a renter can't have. And if the house is not paid off, they still are at a pretty good flat environment instead of escalating rents. Y'all, that home is the difference. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Y'all are lucky like I am. We live in markets where there are affordable options. I mean, the Bay Area, I think that's just going to empty out because all California people are calling me these days, for which I'm very grateful for California's bad tax structure because they're all buying here. But you take a normal person, they can buy in some of y'all's markets, they can buy in my market, we can find them a place. So I got to ask you this. If you invested 12 minutes in that low credit score person and you gave her a chance at $200,000 in savings versus $5,000, wouldn't y'all agree that 12 minutes was worth it? I'm telling y'all, we have to look at our jobs a little differently. Sometimes we forget that we might be the only phone call she ever made because she gives up after she talks to a realtor. She needs to find a realtor like you, or a realtor like the realtor you're going to mentor next. Brenda Lee's already mentioned how you have to look behind you and find more leaders. And it's the same thing in your sales business too. Those of y'all that are brokers, you have to find the next realtor and say, hey friend, there's a better way to do this, so that we can give somebody a hand up. And it's not that you're going to be condescending and ugly and assume that they're stupid. It's just to be an encourager. That's what the 12 minutes is. It's 12 minutes of encouraging. Which also means you have to have the ability to stay kind of unflappable, which is why I love, this is my favorite of the viral Zoom videos. I don't know if y'all have seen this one, but it was really funny. So she's got her face on, hair fixed, blouse on. She's giving a presentation and she is on it. Can't be interrupted. And then her man comes through in his tighty whities until he realizes he's on camera. And the funniest part is she never stops presenting while he is bouncing off the walls trying to get out of the camera. Finally, he escapes and she finishes her presentation and she's like, it just hits her. And I look at this woman and I think if she's not a realtor yet, she'd totally kill it if she were, because as you're thinking your way through, all right, Leigh, I'm already slammed with clients who can buy, and now you want me to spend more time on credit unworthy people and I don't have time. You got to remember that the best part about being a realtor is that somehow, some way you guys managed to put the front on and you're doing more in a day than 12 other people even tried to do. And we know that you melt off stage and that's okay too. But there's got to be a way to push through. For me, what helps me push through is the stats like that one about retirement eligible savings, because it reminds me of how critical my conversations are with buyers and with sellers. And it reminds me of how important every neighbor is that calls me. And to me, that's how we ensure a future for realtors. We continue doing things calmly and not being ruffled, and things that nobody else will do, because it's the hard work I'm asking y'all to do. So when I talk about the hard work, it's this. So you all have a smartphone like mine. And if you go down here to this little picture of a green telephone, if you mash that, you go to the keypad. Did y'all know that if you type in numbers, then hit that green button, it will call somebody? You could hear their voice. What? I know. You don't just send them a text. You got to pick up the phone. You got to. Even if you're calling and they send you to a voicemail, then you get to send a text and say, hey, you screened me out, so I left you a voicemail. Go listen to it. People will laugh. And y'all, humor is the most underutilized tool we have as humans. I don't know why the world is so damn determined to be offended by everything and not laugh anymore, when laughter is a human reaction that lowers our defensive mechanisms. Don't be afraid to be a little bit fun. Let people know, you know, they screened you and they should listen to your message. I always get back a LOL or emoji face when I send that text, or Marco Polo. I do love Marco Polo. If y'all won't use it, that's a fun little video conversation tool. But I will tell you that for you to do the hard work, remember that the hard work adds up. So I don't ask my agents for an hour of power, because I find that to be completely unrealistic and just ain't gonna happen, because y'all don't do an hour of nothing if you can help it, because you have ADD and you're realtors. And so what I ask my agents for is one phone call a day. And we have a Slack channel internally where we communicate with each other. And every day at 8 a.m., we all make one outbound phone call. But here's the rule on the one outbound phone call. It's got to be somebody in your phone that you love. Not a client or a prospect, not a Zillow lead or a Homes lead or any of that stuff. It's somebody special to you. Mama, grandma, best friend, kid, grandkid, doesn't matter. It's just got to be somebody you love. Because the thing is, y'all, it's hard work to tell people you love them. It's hard work to build relationships. So if you go back to screen number 1, how many of y'all would say that you've invested more hard work in your business than you have in your personal lives and in your relationships? And we do that. And so then we get burned out and we get emptied. When, if you think about it differently, if at 8 a.m. you're calling somebody you love, you're going to feel differently. Your endorphins will be up. Your love meter will be up. Then when you start calling clients and prospects, it's a different version of you that's calling them. It's the happy version of you. And should I really be the one to have to tell y'all that there is a magic sauce to converting people? If you convert people, it's because they like you, and they like you more when you're happy than if you're called, hey, good morning, what y'all doing? That's a different voice than, hey, what you doing? People love cheerful. They love happy. They love energy. So it's one call a day at 8 a.m. We hold one another accountable. And then it's one call a day to our targets. And our targets, I mean, somebody that's in your 150, your Dunbar's number. It could be somebody in your geographic area. It could be a lead that you're following up on. So the targets are going to be business related. And all I ask my agents for is one call a day. And here's why. For my nerds in the room, here's why one call a day adds up. If you look at empirical data on sales, okay, over a 60-year time frame, that's the biggest data set we have in the sales tracking side, all industries. If we track outbound phone calls, 10% of your outbound phone calls result in business. If you make one phone call a day, outbound, not related to existing business, but a fresh phone call, 5 a week. All right, so 2 days off. That's 20 days. It's 20 calls a month. Who can do 10% of 20? My math genius is out there. That's 2. If I ask you to make one phone call a day and it turns into 2 extra deals a month, how many of y'all would be happy with 2 extra transactions a month? It's not hard. We've made it hard here. The hard part is doing it. It's the daily discipline to make one outbound phone call. But we make the happy phone call first so that we're here, so we can make a phone call to a stranger who says, well, I'm glad she called me today. And if you want to know the real secret on getting your energy up for your phone calls and doing it, there's a mirror right here beside this computer. In my office, I have a mirror beside my computer. I talk to mirrors, And it's not from a vanity perspective. It's for two reasons. One of them is that if I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I'm not likely to look at this and get distracted by notifications and other things. Many of you, when you're making phone calls, you get distracted. You're in front of some other screen and suddenly you're just not all there. And friends, people know it. They know when you're not dialed in. And the other thing that happens is if I'm talking to a mirror, I'm talking to my eyes to someone, your energy level automatically rises and they hear a different you. Just try that sometime. It's kind of striking what happens to your business. So now y'all are thinking, all right, Leigh, I can do that. I can do one call a day, no problem. I'm gonna call somebody I love too. I'm investing my 12 minutes in my bad credit score people. What else you got? Okay, here's what else I got. I want you to think one step beyond real estate and how you can create this ripple effect in the communities where you live. Well, this is my run group. And when coronavirus started, my run group was a little bit verklempt because we weren't supposed to be having our large group runs, which are how you get a long run done. You start all together and you kind of finish all together. Well, our run group was trying to, manage, and it was just painful, right? Well, Darius is in my run group. And of course, look at him. He's doing push-ups on fist, on asphalt. He's tough. He's a fitness guy. He's a trainer, actually, and he's the most enthusiastic, cheerful, cheerer owner of people I have ever met. His wife is also really smart, which is why she's the one holding the camera. So anyway, when we couldn't have our big group runs, Darius, of course, is Mr. Okay, we can't run together. In our Facebook group, we can do a push-up challenge. All right. I'm not interested in a push-up challenge. I don't do upper body work. I'm not interested. Plus, Darius is super fit. He's up here. He's like my Mr. Eye Candy guy. Rest of us are down here. We're in average world. So the person who's at the tippy top says do it. And then the average person's like, yeah, maybe you can because you're awesome, but screw that. I'm just going to hang out over here and be average. It's easy to tell yourself that you're not good enough to do great things. But again, we're about doing hard things. And hard things mean saying yes to things that you think are out of your comfort zone. Well, what happens is sometimes you say yes and other people are watching. So in the middle here, you see my friend Leigh. Now, Leigh is one of my dearest friends, and she is the most opposed to doing extra things like stretching or yoga or lifting weights. Not interested. We run, we walk. She does her own pace. She will not be hurried. She's amazing. Well, Leigh works with special needs kids in our public school system. And when school got closed, Leigh's mental space got really muddy because she couldn't be with the kids who need her so badly. She couldn't lay eyes on them. She couldn't help them. And so she felt really trapped. And so suddenly Leigh says yes to Darius. And we're like, now, what is going on? Something's weird here. Leigh's way of dealing with her own uncertainty was to stretch herself to do something different. And what was crazy is when Leigh agreed to say yes to Darius, we all said yes. Because Leigh made it feel like it was going to be doable. And we wanted to support Leigh. While we all figured we weren't going to be Darius, we could do it for Leigh. And my question to you is, who's watching you? Who's watching what you do and how you conduct your business and how you conduct your life and what you put on social and thinking of you as somebody that they would like to be like, but they don't know how to get there until you show them how to get there. I mean, we sometimes forget how impactful we are because you assume everybody else is more impactful than you. Well, what was even funnier is when we all were signing up to go along with Leigh, well, Peter signed up. Peter's a candidate for Stanley County Commissioner, and he's had like 3 heart attacks, has no business doing fitness stuff. But because Leigh said yes, and because Darius started it, Peter got into the game too. That's what a ripple effect looks like. You just don't know. And so for those of y'all that are looking at this and you're like, yeah, I ain't Darius, I ain't Leigh either. I might be more Peter. What if you knew you had to do something fitness related and you said, you know what? I'm going to walk to the end of my driveway and back 3 times a day. What if that's all the challenge it took to get somebody to come with you? I always get tickled by the people that find out I'm a runner. Like, I ain't running. If you see me running, somebody's chasing me, which is their way to give themselves excuses. Maybe you're not going to do what I do, but you can do what you do. And somebody else, what you do is more than what they were doing. So maybe you inspire somebody to come on with you. So post in your Facebook group, I'm going to walk to the end of the driveway and back 3 times. I'm tagging this one and this one to go with me. And you know what they'll say? They'll say yes. And then somebody else sees them say yes. And suddenly you've taken a negative environment and made it positive. That's all it takes, y'all, is little steps. And when you think about those little steps, some of it was the sidewalk art that happened back in March. And of course, most of that has washed away by now. Could you be sidewalk art 2.0 in your community? Get some kids, grandkids, a fellow realtor, a roll of painter's tape and some chalk, and go dress up a neighborhood. Find a low income neighborhood where the kids are on homeschool and they don't think anybody knows they're there. Go decorate the sidewalks. Go to a 55 plus neighborhood where they have been missing their kids and grandkids so bad, and go bring a little bit of light. It's not always about the fancy marketing. Sometimes it's about that boots on the ground desire to be out there bringing joy to somebody else. That's what realtors do. I mean, I see it with the way your clients behave at closing, what they say about you online. Maybe you just got to show the rest of the community that what we're about is a little bit more than a sign in a yard here and there, which means you think of other ways you can throw that out there. So if those of y'all that follow me online, I started this accidentally during the coronavirus with what I fix for supper, and turned it into a little show called My Kitchen, My Rules, which is really just, Leigh Brown making shit up and putting it online. And it became something people were interested in because it broke up their days. You don't think your life is that interesting until you find out that somebody else just needed a break from their life. So open your heart, open your doors, open your video camera up. Yeah, it's a little scary, but you'll find more people are interested in the real you than in that fake you that you thought was supposed to be done in real estate marketing. And for the record, if you want to know if this stuff works, 6 buyers so far from my cooking show, all of them out of state. I don't know where they're getting a hold of it, but they watch it and they've called me to sell my house. I say, all right, I can help you with that. Your marketing doesn't have to look like everybody else, just for the record. And by the way, the most popular episodes are the ones where I am doing my super budgety things, because if you didn't know, I'm super cheap. But let people know that you're one of them. I mean, there's so many realtors out there, and we've just let somebody else tell our story. So as I give you a moment to ask a question and something you want to say here, you can type it in the chat block. I'm just going to remind you, you probably already remember this, but the Right Tools Right Now from the National Association has been extended until December, and you can take ePro for free. At Home with Diversity is half price. And by the way, we rolled out a new course in May, and it's very good stuff. You can get there's some GRI and ABR and SRES resources at RTRN, Right Tools Right Now. So go check it out and take advantage of what your association has done. I'm very proud that the realtors have made sure that members have had resources to get better during this time. Hey, there's my updated slide with my updated picture too. So there's the kick tail thing. Michelle is checking to make sure that it's fixed, but if it's not working, go to learnwithleigh.com. My new book is out, and I haven't really promoted it yet because I'll just be honest with y'all. I've had a lot of really low moments during the coronavirus time, a lot of depression, and been dealing with a lot of that. So I haven't promoted my new book, but that's going to be coming soon. Now that my photographer took some pictures, I'm ready to do it. And of course, there's my podcast, Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You've got a story to tell. I'd love to have you. And all my other stuff. Leigh Brown University is a soup to nuts, how to make your business more profitable by relationship. It's all the stuff that I do in my business, frankly. It's not made up or stolen. And then my speaker boot camp, any of y'all that want to be speakers or grow into be instructors in the real estate space, I am going virtual this time for the first time because people are still chicken to travel. I'm cool with that. So that information is at speakwithleigh.com. All right, so if you follow my social channels, anything I do promoting my business or real estate, just consider you have carte blanche to take it, copy it, make it into what you want, because I do believe that our profession is one of abundance. And if it works for my business, it may work for yours. So take it and make your own spin on it, and don't get in your own way. Perfection is often y'all's biggest enemy because you want to turn out something that you think is perfect. I will tell you that the times that I make mistakes and flub ups are the times that I get the most interaction and get people to come with me. And that's what you get to do in real estate. So take it and run with it and make yourselves better. And with that being said, I've wound us up like 3 minutes early, which frankly, I never do, but you're not asking any questions. And so we'll just take it back to the full screen. Does anybody have a question or have a problem you're dealing with that I can give you the Leigh Brown advice on, or what can I do to help y'all? Those that are left. I see we dropped about 8 people. I guess they had to go to a listing or a buyer appointment. Karen, what you got?
I have one, Leigh. I've been experiencing through the whole summer what's going on TV with the other side. Whatever the other side is, it feels like buyers and sellers are doing that. They automatically distrust the other side through every transaction, that they must be lying, they must be lying, that kind of thing, no matter what side. It's people, they're under stress right now. There's natural distrust in the world. Do you have any advice for trying to get common sense back into transactions?
Well, for me, it's about the setting of expectations, right? And so when I'm in a listing appointment, I use a seller net proceed sheet. Do y'all all use a seller net proceed sheet? Mine is in 3 columns. I have perfect world, I have reasonable, and I have ugly. So I always show them 3 different outlays. And I break down as many things as I can. One of the items on there, some of you may call it repair money or inspection money. I call it extortion fee. And so when I'm in a listing appointment, my sellers are always like, well, what's the extortion fee? I say, oh, that's after we're under contract and that buyer wants a whole bunch of stupid repairs and you're all mad about it. And you're like, they're nickeling and diming me. I said, look, you're going to have to pay $1,000 or $2,000 or shut them up. And so that's what that extortion fee is there, because that's what it feels like. And so what happens, Karen, is now when I get the repair report back, the sellers are like, oh, it's time for them to extort me. And I say, yes, it is. And so their reaction would normally be to go here, or mad, they're on defense, but now they expect it. And with buyers, I go in the same way and I budget into theirs. I'm like, you're going to budget in over the next year. You're going to spend $1,000 on stuff the seller's not going to fix. And so we're going to focus on what we can get, and then you're going to budget for the rest. And now when the seller says yes, that's the expectation they had. The one thing I don't know how to deal with is other agents that are completely unreasonable assholes. And I'm working my way through that personally. I did have an agent mansplain to me this past week, which was highly entertaining because I wound up putting him on speakerphone. I love being mansplained too. It's like my favorite thing in life. And he was raising his voice at me. And then I said, don't you raise your voice at me. And he said, I'm not raising my voice. I said, bullshit. I said, you can hang up right now and call me back if you want to, but this stops. Because he was delaying everything and trying to act like I was the unreasonable one. And so I said, we can talk later when you have calmed down, or you can calm down now. And I got silence. And then I got this whole string of apologies. I'm so sorry. I was in a car accident and then my mother was sick. And it was like a child getting busted without their homework. You got to call people out. I do think it helps if you do it with a little bit of humor, but I'm done being talked to like I'm an idiot. And so I just don't take that anymore. But I did find that after he was stupid to me, I had my assistant call him and she said, hey, Leigh wanted me to find out if I can get the buyer's email address and I can then schedule the closing for you. I will schedule the inspection for you. I will act as your assistant here and keep you fully in the loop. But can I help you because your calendar is full? Well, suddenly he didn't need any help and he got everything scheduled. We offered to do it for him, but we were trying to be nice. Now, I will say on the one of the issues that I'm seeing, I'm sure y'all are seeing it too, agents that get all pissy when their agent loses and when their buyer loses in multiple offers and they accuse you of not presenting the offers and you did present it and doesn't matter what forms you have, they get all mad. Well, I send a handwritten thank you note for every offer I get on a property. I include a $5 Starbucks card and I tell them I appreciate the time that you spent to bring an offer and I hope to work with you in the future. And I'm spending probably $100 per listing because we're getting 20 offers on a listing. I deal with a lot of regular priced houses in that low end, and that's where the offers are. I thank every agent and they appreciate it because your competitors in the market aren't even acknowledging each other. So I think that helps reduce that stress as well. Something else that's reducing that they're out to get me thing, because I let my buyers and sellers know I do this. If y'all follow me on Instagram, I even did one a couple of weeks ago where I was presenting like 26 offers and I had printed them all off. I don't know if y'all saw that post. I print all my offers on paper. So, I mean, right, my paper friends. And I take it over to the house like this and I show them. I can show the buyers. I sent every offer. I took them over, carried it over there. And I make my seller initial every one so I can show I've got everything presented. I'm just going above and beyond, right? So electronic is sometimes okay, but I find that the tangible proof goes a lot further to tell people, I see you, I hear you, I notice you. And I got to point out to you, that house was something crazy. And I tried something that I'm doing now on almost every listing under 300, which I do a lot in that price range, right? So I probably could have moved to luxury by now, but I like my regular people. So I'm putting on every one of the listings, if the seller wants to, there's a 48-hour owner occupant exclusion period. So we're not going to look at investor offers until hour 49. And what I will tell you is happening is my other agents in the market, they're calling me, thanking me. And what's happening is they say, my buyers haven't felt like they've had a chance because they keep losing to the cash investors and they're losing out. And they feel like they had a chance. And so even though they lost, it's building really good goodwill in the marketplace, which I think that's what solves a lot of the angst over time, is just building up goodwill. And I will tell you what's interesting is that investor agents are calling and yelling at me saying you're discriminating and blah. I'm like, investors are not a protected class in federal fair housing, and the sellers can do whatever they want. And my sellers are not doing it to find the right buyer. They're doing it because they have a heart for the marketplace, and your owner occupants are the chance of our neighborhoods to get better. So I've really enjoyed that. And the offers we're getting are just as good as you were getting from investors, if not better. And I can talk to my sellers about FHA, VA, USDA. I've got one USDA under contract right now. The USDA won the multiple offers. And that agent was beside herself. She said, my client can't win because other agents won't present his loan type. And I said, I will not be that agent. And so we got to be louder about being the agents who picture the whole thing. And I'll point out to you as well, I strip buyer love letters from offers, and it's in MLS. We will not accept a buyer love letter because I do not want my sellers to accidentally wander into fair housing territory. And these agents are sending pictures of their clients. And that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I said the offer needs to stand on its own grounds and not have to be affected by emotional mess. So anyway, that's a lot of answers to your question, but I think it's, you add them up, right? So you add up all the little things you can do to make the market better. With buyers, if they're approved for 165, I won't let them look over 150. I'm telling them to build in $15,000, $20,000 to go above list, because you will never win at asking price right now in that price range. So I'm restricting what their search is to protect them instead of telling them to go over their approved number, which is what most realtors do. I mama hen it. I say my mama hen job is to protect your monthly budget. And then with that, I also tell them you're going to lose 3 or 4 houses. If we win the first one, it's a freaking miracle of nature, but we're probably going to lose half a dozen houses first, which helps them understand when we lose the first one, I wasn't lying to them. So, I mean, that's not a clean and perfect answer, Karen, but I just try to take little bits and keep adding it up. And I will tell you, this is why I do things like teach new member orientation at my local board. I don't get paid for that. I just love teaching new member orientation because I can explain RPAC to new members, and I can help them know that our community can be collaborative if we choose to make it that way. So if I can get to a new member sooner, I can build better relationships down the road. And my fellow brokers, they're not scared of me teaching new member orientation because I'm not using it as recruiting. I'm using it to build better transactions in the future. And if an agent calls me, that's fine. But I have to lead by doing things in a way that I believe is right. And if I'm right, then it works out. If I'm wrong, I'm going to have to pivot someday anyway, because we all make mistakes. So anyway, long rambly answer to you there.
That's an awesome one. Thank you so much. You're so inspirational.
I do recommend, though, trying that owner occupant exclusion with your lower price point listings. It's really cool. It's cool.
Leigh, we're seeing some success with realtors doing the pre-listing home inspection to eliminate the extortion money, because they will then say there was 5 things that we've had on this pre-listing home inspection. We fixed these 3, these 2 we've priced accordingly, and it kind of shuts down the renegotiation of the deal with the realtors. So we are seeing an uptick of the pre-listing home inspections. We've always done them, but we're seeing more of them.
Well, good. I'm glad that that works. I mean, everything can work if you set it up properly, and you're setting it up properly with full disclosure. I think that's the problem a lot of agents have with pre-listing inspections. They don't really want to release the inspection report when they have it, forgetting they're now at risk with the real estate commission for material fact. So the way that you're doing it is perfect and makes the other agent happy.
I have a question.
Yes.
Kelly, a lot of times you have so much information to share. How do you not overwhelm them with things? Like I tend to over-explain everything just so that they're prepared. But how do you not overwhelm them?
All right, when I sit down with a seller, whether it's by Zoom or in person or with a buyer, I ask them, all right, so would you call yourself a mild geek, a medium geek, or a serious geek? They'll tell you. So when I was growing up, geek was a mean thing to say. A nerd was a mean thing to be. I was four-eyed. I was glasses and braces, the top of the grades. I was academic nerd girl. And that was something mean you said. Nowadays, geek is a compliment, and so is nerd. People love being known as data numbers people. So I ask them that, and they'll say, oh, I'm a mild one. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to skip over a lot of this stuff and just go to the highlights. The people that are real nerds, your engineers and accountants, they're like, oh, I'm a serious geek. And they're excited that you're going to present the full picture. So Kelly, you just kind of modify it based on what they tell you, but realtors never ask that in my experience. You just start diving into your usual presentation, but every client is wired differently for details. And so I go in with the full load of nerd information in case I have an engineer. But if I have a normal person, I'll say, this is graphs and charts, They don't want graphs and charts, right? They want comps and information. So you dial it back. I also ask when I'm at the house to do the tour to help, get my notes together. So which one matters to you more, the dog and pony show or the numbers? And 95% of my people say the numbers matter more than the dog and pony show, because for most of us, what do you go to first? The dog and pony show. You go through the house for an hour sucking up to them and writing shit down and acting like you're amazed by their linen closet when you're just like, linen closet, instead of doing what they want, which is to sit down and talk about the numbers. Because can you price a house when you walk in? Yeah, experienced agents can. You can walk in and in 2 minutes, you know what you're dealing with. You can smell it. You can see the clutter. You can see the cleanliness right away. But we spend an hour acting like we're surprised by their house. Now, as you're a new agent, it does take you a little longer because you're getting your experience and your quick talk up. But you that are long in the tooth, you know a price when you get an address, don't you? You do. I mean, it's just an experienced realtor thing. So give the client the option. That's what saves you a lot of time there. The other thing I have a whole collection of videos, and they're videos you guys don't see, but it's like there's a video I send out. Here's what to expect for the home inspection for the seller. So this is a text I got yesterday. I love it. I can give y'all real life things. Now, these sellers have lived in their house for 35 years. They are precious, and I have to hold their hands all the time. He said, I saw your video about the inspection, and I've got all the tips handled, except for these 2 items. We've covered everything. Should I still be worried? So I can go from how to prepare for the inspection to should I be worried, which that's bigger for an elderly couple, right? He already handled everything in the video. So it saved me a 30-minute phone call of here's what to do for the inspection tomorrow, or an email, which is impersonal. He got my little video, and it's comforted him because it was me. Your clients choose you. And those of y'all that hate video, you've just got to get over it. You think you're ugly or fat or old or stupid or don't sound good or whatever your terrible thing is that you said to yourself that's mean and ugly. Nobody told you those mean things about yourself. But you just take your little camera, hold it sideways because landscape is the way to make your video, put it in selfie mode. And now you'll say, all right, so the appraiser's coming. Here's how to prep for that. You've got an offer coming in. Here's what we're going to talk about. Chelsea, I don't use anything stock, honey, nothing stock. And I don't use BombBomb anymore because I got mad at them. I found a way better vendor, and that's on that Leigh Brown resources page. They're better, cheaper, and way more implementations into social media. And so I've been doing video now for over 10 years, right? So I'm a video person at this point. I wasn't at first because I found out as an introvert, video is my best friend because it allows me to not have to do so many conversations with people that I'm tired of talking to. So make a video for everything. Here's what to expect with showings. Here's what to expect with appraisal or survey or measure, all the things that you do. You fire over a little video and then they love it. And then I do a special personalized one with a conversation we've had. So maybe we agreed to provide a home warranty plan. I send a little video over. It says, hey, you agreed to the home warranty. Here's what's happening next. You're going to get an email from my warranty vendor. He's going to explain everything to you. It's going to be paid for at closing. Here's how you file a claim. And then I send it to both sides of the couple. Because as you know, most of the time you're talking to one half of the couple and their communication skills amongst themselves suck. And the other one's like, wait a minute, what is this? I didn't agree to this. And you're like, he did. And she's like, he don't tell me nothing. Nope, send it to both of them. Now they're on the same page all the time. So I have a whole library of 30-second videos for every situation. And that also allows my assistant to send it out. So she's not going to have to be responsible for it. It's still Leigh Brown's words. I can't answer anything in like 2 seconds, and I apologize for that. Janice is asking if I give feedback on showings. I absolutely give feedback because I think it's a professional courtesy. And I know that there's two schools of thought on this. I shouldn't be doing their job for them, blah, blah, blah. I also know that many agents give their clients great advice and the clients don't listen. So I tell my teenagers what to do. If my best friend walks in the house and tells them to do something, they're going to do what she said because she ain't me. And same thing with their sellers. They might go clean up the cat pee because the showing agent told them, even though the listing agents told them 5 times. So I'm kind about my feedback because I know that many sellers get it unfiltered. You know, I appreciate you allowing us into the house. I do think the house would show better if there were no cat pee smell. And so I would try a pan of charcoal near the litter box. I try to give suggestions. I really don't know why we can't be kinder to each other. It's better for my marketplace if that seller's house sells with their agent than if that house languishes and gathers up days in MLS. And I don't know why we think that we're exclusive holders of information, because we're not. None of us is exclusive in our knowledge. Everything is pretty much shared knowledge. It's the way that you deliver it that differentiates us. So I just have that mindset of helping other people get better. And with the buyers, if my buyers are going to buy the house, that's when I just leave feedback that says, look for a phone call from me. I'm not going to get the seller all wired up in case my buyer changes their mind, but I want the agent to know we're going to have a chit chat so I can ask about what terms would be favorable to your seller. Are they worried about deposits or dates, or what's their hot button so I can constructively build an offer that fits them. Let's see, open houses. I'm so grateful for coronavirus because now all we have to do is virtual. What? And this is Agent Safety Month, by the way. So a coronavirus should have given all of you new habits that you don't ever break again. You no more Pop-Tart anymore. You will never again ride around with somebody you haven't talked to first, right? Because we should have learned some things right now that we will not mess up again. And let's see, contracts and agency at first meeting, absolutely. I will date my buyer agency agreement though for 24 hours. And I say, look, we are dating right now, but I need you to understand that if I show you a house and I need to get paid, that I'm going to get paid. But if we need to break up after this house, this is going to let you out. But if you love me, we can extend it. You can get me a real ring instead of the Walmart chip. And I always, relationship things are always the best way to get people to understand you. But do not show houses without agency, y'all. That's just stupid. It's stupid. And it's stupid. And what else is it? Stupid. Get it signed. If you don't have the balls to get an agency agreement signed, you don't belong in real estate. And that's honestly it. And what I tell them is this. I'm like, look, what this form means is that when you ask me questions, I can answer with a paragraph instead of a sentence. Because until you sign this document, I'm working for the seller. And I'm pretty sure that you want this much brain working for you. And they laugh. I always use like big hand signals, and I mess around a lot because people laugh. Some of y'all are so scared to ask for the business, but they want you to ask for the business. Oh, let's see what was over here. Chelsea, that's very smart to check status before showing. We should all do that all the time. And, oh, you ask what they want in feedback. I freaking love that idea. I might just have to steal that. Good job, Chelsea. Kelly just won an offer because she asked. Asking's magical, isn't it? What do we say in Women's Council? The task is the ask. I mean, there's a reason for that. And I do have way too much energy, blessed assurance over there. That's one of my favorite hymns. By the way, Cindy, I love that you stick that in your name. Stick us in Jesus in your life. Whoop, whoop. He's a good friend. All right. Anybody else need anything? I ran y'all 15 minutes over. Janice said thank you with I could read her lips, and she didn't even cut on her microphone, but she's also wearing my favorite color pink, so good job. Yeah, Janice and Sarah are my extra favorites today. All right, if I can help y'all in any way, hit me up on social media. I manage all of my stuff myself. I do have my girls will post stuff for me, but I manage the messages because I do believe it should be social. And I wish all of y'all a very happy fourth quarter. I hope that all of y'all will say yes when you're asked to serve. And I hope you will find ways to serve, whether it's in Realtor World or Habitat for Humanity or your church or the PTA, or just being out there in your communities, because I think realtors can save the world because we're the best. So I love y'all. I hope to see you in person sometime very soon. And I'll be in Michigan probably before I'm anywhere else, because I got a special relationship with my Michigan realtors, and I'll hope to see y'all in person real soon.